It's 6:01. We're missing a few people still. Oh, yeah. It's cordless. And you can move this around too. It's all kinds of things you can do. All right, I would love to get started. Do we have a Rooney? Vanessa? Okay, do we have our other board member? I'm missing one. All right. All right. No. Okay. That's what happens when we get out early. All right, good evening. Tonight I'm calling call to order the open session for our board meeting, July 29th, 2025 at 6:03. We do have a special guest to lead us in our pledge this evening, Ethan Edinger. Where's Ethan? Ethan! All right, come on up. Are you going to do it from right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. I'm sure we're going to meet you in a little bit. So, all right. We did have a report from closed session. The board took action by a vote of 5-0 to approve a settlement agreement between Fullerton School District and the parents of employee John Doe NS. Is that true? Okay. All right. And that takes us to our superintendent's report. As you can see, we don't have Dr. Bob here, but we have Chad, who's going to be here with us this evening. And I'm sure you have some great things to share with us.
I'm very excited to have some great news to share with you. As President Berryman said, Superintendent Pleka is not here with us this evening. He wishes he could be. Well, I'm not quite sure about that, but I know he's out enjoying time with his family, and will be back with us at the next meeting. So I'm glad to be able to fill in for him tonight. My first announcement I'm very excited to make. We have an opening for the principal at Hermosa. Our principal at Hermosa, Dr. Carolyn Llewellyn, moved to Fissler, and we have a new principal to announce. It was no coincidence that our person who led the Pledge of Allegiance is her son. The new principal for Hermosa School is Julianne Ettinger. I'm going to ask Julianne to to tell us a few sentences about herself, a little bit about who she is and how excited she is to be joining us at Hermosa School, and then she's going to introduce her family to us as well.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Julianne Ettinger. Thank you, Dr. Hammett, cabinet members of the board. I am so thrilled to be here. I started my career here in Fullerton School District 20 years, or no, it will be 19 years ago. I'm starting my 20th school year here. I started as a classroom teacher and then a response intervention coach and then assistant principal. And now to begin my 20th year as principal of Hermosa, I am so thrilled and so thankful. I cannot wait to get started working with our Hermosa Drive community and supporting our students, our Hermosa Hawks, in continually thriving. So thank you very much for this honor. I am so truly grateful. Here tonight is my wonderful husband, Nico. Oliver is going into 2nd grade, and Ethan going into 7th grade. So thank you very much. Go Hawks.
We're thrilled to have you.
We're very excited to have Julianne join our Hermosa family and become one of our Hawks. Her energy is contagious, and she's an amazing leader. So you've got a gem. So I'm very excited about her joining us. Well, though not everyone is back yet, school is already feels like in full swing. Last week, most of our management team members returned. We had our welcome back management retreat, and our administrators have been busily getting everything ready for the new school year. Our office staff returned as well last week. Yes, I have a couple of office staff members here in the audience shaking their heads. And tomorrow's an exciting day because office is open tomorrow. So, parents, I know we had no less than 100 phone calls today, but just so everyone knows, all of our school offices open tomorrow. And so if you have questions, new enrollments, more children, and you've just moved into the area, come on down. We're very happy to have you join us. Our doors are open, and we can't wait to have you with us. And additionally, I would like to thank all of our staff who have worked all summer long. We have classified staff members who were here every single day. We had summer programs through Jason, Jason, our director of our Encore program, and our Encore program. We serviced this summer almost 3,000 students every single day of the summer. And that's for a program that ran from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And parents, you know how difficult it can be when your children are home every single day of the summer from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so we know the programming that has to be offered. We know the things that have to be done, and they go past 5 p.m. usually, right? You don't get to send them away. But there was a lot that we did this summer to help support students. So I'm very grateful. Additionally, the classrooms that were cleaned, the technology that was rebooted and cleaned up, the nutrition services menus and preparation that were put in place, every single department. I can't leave HR out. Hiring and retirements and insurance benefits and just all of the things that need to happen over the summer that happened this summer. And it's like magic. Offices will open tomorrow. And on August 11th, the day is coming. Everyone mark your calendars, first day of school. So we're only just a few weeks away. We're very excited for the start of the new school year. Yes, come.
Yes.
Yeah, come on up. Come on up.
Photo time. Yes, come on. Do you want the board with your picture? You want us with it, or? Even if you didn't, what are you going to say now?
Thank you for letting us do this.
Oh, you're welcome.
No, you're right. We usually do it.
Are we behind?
I don't know where
A
we
layer?
are.
I don't know if they can see us. Is that creepy? If we're hey,
No, I think we
maybe
need to go
don't be.
in. Oh, I have my big shoes on.
Okay, let's. You want to run away? No, you guys just do it.
Family, family.
Thank you for letting us.
Oh, of course. Of course. Welcome. You might not be thanking us later. Oh, yay! Oh, no, you can introduce them. Come back up. You're just in time for a picture.
One more picture.
I do want to thank my parents. They are educators themselves, and they have inspired me along my journey. So I know I wouldn't be there who I am today.
Oh.
And your parents' names besides mom and dad? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yeah, that's traffic.
And let's give Julianne just one more round of applause.
Yeah.
And Julianne, we don't expect that you and your family will stay. So if you want to get on the road and do other things,
Before they go,
yeah, I want to go have a meal.
hey, Hermosa families, before you go, hello, Hermosa families, before you go. Oh, nope. Okay. I don't think they heard.
Oh, good, good. Doggy bags. Oh, thank you, guys.
Hopefully they'll buy for you.
Yeah. You guys can go have dinner now.
Aww. Yeah.
You guys are free to go. Yes. Get some rest. Hit the ground running tomorrow. Oh, we have so many seats in the front. We'll wait. I know. Oh, you know what? We should do that. We are going to do that next time. It's going to be a lucky seat in the front. It's okay. We don't bite all the time. All right. Thank you. You are complete with your report? Okay, great. So then we're going to move on to information from our Board of Trustees. I believe we'll start with Vanessa this time, down on this end.
All right. Sure. Hello, everyone. It's July, and again, our office is open mañana, tomorrow. That is crazy. How is the summer over? Kind of want my kids to go back, but sorry. So, since our last school board meeting, I wanted to take a moment and highlight some powerful moments of community, compassion, and unity in our district. The beginning of this month, we had a food and toiletry drive, which was huge. It was a huge success. And I want to thank our FSD families and staff who donated, volunteered, and even helped with deliveries. But a huge, huge shout out to Juan Fonseca and Erlinda Soltero Ruiz, because they led everything, from getting everything organized, putting boxes everywhere so that all the donations could get dropped off, the separating of the boxes, the organizing with our friends at the Center for Healthy Neighbors. We had a partnership with them, and they were, from what I hear, up all the way up until like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock, doing family food deliveries. So a big thank you for all of them, because it takes, when we say it takes a village, it literally does, especially here at the district. It's not just about talking about putting together an event. It's who's going to do it, where the box is going to go, who's going to be, coming over to separate everything. And I made a few deliveries myself, and it was just such an overwhelming and happiness to be able to see families receive their groceries and their toiletries and much needed help. And so thank you so much for everything that you do for our schools. But then also on July 15th, we partnered with Supervisor Doug Chafee, United Across Borders, volunteers from Neutral Ground, and our FSD communities, FSD community schools, for a fresh produce drive. That happened here at Pack Drive, and we got a total of 28 pallets of fresh fruit, and we were able to distribute to over 500 families. It was so amazing. Again, it takes a village, and I am beyond grateful to every single person that made this happen. From volunteers to taking everything out, making sure all the kids were here. Again, thank you to Erlinda, because she was there opening up all the boxes and telling us what to do. You here, no, that one, and this one. So thank you, everybody. On July 21st, our superintendent, President Berryman, Trustee Takor, Trustee Hanchin, and I had the honor of joining Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva at a press conference addressing the impact of recent ICE activity. Trustee Hanchin and I were proud to speak in support of our immigrant families and affirm our commitment to keeping schools safe, inclusive, and welcoming for all. I should say it in caps, ALL. And then just a few days later, on July 25th, I was invited to City Hall to speak at a Fullerton is Our Home candlelight vigil alongside friends from OC United, OCO, and other multi-faith organizations. We really did come together in unity and prayer to uplift our immigrant neighbors and those facing hardship. I shared my personal testimony, spoke about my ties in our community through our family business, but then I also spoke about what our district is doing to support our most marginalized communities. And I told them that FSD's message is very clear. Every child is welcome, and every family deserves dignity and respect, which really, regardless of their circumstances, which really is, what it all comes down to. It was a very moving evening of solidarity and just coming together as a community to support each other. I also had the opportunity to attend the FSD management retreat alongside some incredible FSD leadership in Temecula. It was great to connect with the principals and learn from our district management. I really appreciate the fact that I was welcome into our small discussion groups, and so I was able to learn about food and health safety. We made a secret handshake that we're just trying to remember how it went. And so I was able to hear about their goals, and we shared a day and a half, I guess you could say it was kind of a day and a half, of fun learning and community. We got to de-stress and got to do some really nice things. Again, I truly do feel blessed to have been a part of be a part of this as we kick off another school year. Really, I feel like it brought us closer together. And looking ahead, I want to invite all of our families to join us on August 7th at Nicholas Junior High for an informational meeting with anybody who has immigration concerns. Please, we welcome you. There will be interpretation, childcare, and also virtual access through Zoom for those of you who prefer to do it at home. But immediately after, again, I do recommend that you come in person, because immediately after at 4 o'clock, the district is hosting a back-to-school health fair where we're offering free screenings, vaccines, food, and school supplies. It's just a great time to come together and, get back to, again, meeting with everybody at the district. Let me see, what else do I have on my notes? So as we prepare to update our board policy on equity, I really do want to emphasize that equity means standing with all students, again, capital ALL, including those in our immigrant community who are facing fear and uncertainty right now. Positive school climate begins with ensuring that every child feels seen and supported, and I feel like this is something that FSD has always taken very seriously, especially in the last few months. So as we begin the school year and as the school year approaches, I really do want to encourage every family to reach out to the district with any worries or any concerns that you may have, because again, in our district, we believe in protecting one another, and I think it's been pretty clear that we treat each other as family, and we want to make sure that you all know that here at the district, we will do anything and everything that is in our power to be able to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Rooney?
I'm just going to reiterate that it's never easy following Vanessa in her opening comments. I do second everything that Trustee Estrella mentioned. I just want to take my brief time to remark about when I started on the school board, one of the first things that I remember talking about was the beginning of the solar panels on the campuses. And this was not a very easy rollout. There was one campus in particular where there was a resident who felt that it was shining too much in his house, and so we had to make some adjustments. But from that moment and realizing we are the heart and soul of the community, as I always say, but we also can be, I guess, as an eyesore for some people. I mean, depending on how we roll out our projects, and I think we're always struggling to figure out how to best serve the community, and sometimes that means that we moderate ourselves a little bit. Sometimes it means leading. Sometimes it means listening to the community and changing what we're doing. But from that first sort of controversy and excitement of solar panels to tonight, having buses soon that will be electric, and I don't know about anybody else here, but it one of the senses that I remember of being in elementary school was the smoke of the bus in the back. It was like, it was exciting because it meant we were going somewhere, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't healthy. Anyway, yeah, well, no more. I'm just so excited that things that we started out with in the beginning of my journey and sort of just continuing along and seeing how things dovetail very nicely. I've spoken from the dais about my support for working men and women. My mom was a Teamster here at the Hunt's Canning Factory. When I went to Nicholas, and when I returned to Nicholas, we have the same bathroom tiles that were there when I was a student, but we also have this brand new structure that's going up. I'm just so proud of the growth and how we're finally addressing some of the needs at Nicholas. With tonight, we're going to be discussing a workforce agreement, working men and women, veterans, local hiring. This is sort of the backbone of our community. I'm so proud of all the effort that's gone into getting us to this point of the discussion. And so I cannot tell you enough how proud I am of progress and what I feel is progress. And sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we take a step back. But I feel like this district is just always trying to move in the right direction, and I'm so grateful for everybody's efforts. Thank you to Doug Chafee's office. Taking the call, right? Somebody from Al Jabbar from Doug's office called and said, "We have these pallets of food. Do you think FSD can help deliver them?" Like, I'm pretty sure that we can. And so just, with a phone call, basically, with a few text messages and emails, we were able to be the conduit for this great service. I'm just so honored to be up here. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Welcome back, James. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. It's been a while. My first meeting back from being on military leave, and I'm looking forward to starting a whole new school year. Because when I first came here, it was in the middle, right? So starting the school year, I'm looking forward to going out to as many sites as possible. Something that I was not able to do last year, so that's something that I'm looking forward to. I definitely want to thank the board, the cabinet, and the staff of FSD for their rigorous defense and protection of our children and families. Thank you so much. And I will echo Trustee Estrella's invitation to the Nicholas event in a week or two. A lot of things are happening in the Medi-Cal, CalFresh, Medicaid, food stamp space. The choice for individual families to apply for benefits is a personal one. You have to weigh all the risks. But just know that the Social Services Agency, where I work in my day job, we are going to make sure that you get every single benefit you are legally entitled to. It does not matter your background. We will help you. And I am proud to be partnering with the district to make sure that our families get what they deserve. So thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Ruthie?
Yeah, I got to do a lot of fun things. Some of them over the summer that Trustee Estrella mentioned. I got to attend the summer stage play of Moana at the end of June. It was really fun to see our kids perform way back then. And the management retreat is always one of the highlights of the year for me because it's just so great to connect with our staff. And leaders in a relaxed and fun way and build those connections. One of my highlights for the summer was I was able to volunteer at Richmond Summer School Program. So it's a partnership that we have with FSD and Soulful, which is an extended learning program that has partnered with Soulful, a nonprofit in the community, for over 10 years now. So I got to volunteer. I was in charge of the first week of the social emotional learning lessons. So I had kindergartners through sixth graders, and I really enjoyed my time. I got to know about 100 kids on a first name basis in my classroom, able to have some conversations about especially identifying what a healthy relationship looks like, what trusted adults feel like and look like, and that's a foundation of preventing child abuse. So it was a really meaningful conversations that I got to have with some of our kids, but I also got to see the day-to-day work of our staff and gained a lot of appreciation and respect for what they do every single day. They work very hard. And one of the other highlights was really volunteering with about 40 other youth that were from throughout Fullerton that have come back and volunteer 3 weeks of their summer for no pay because of the opportunity that they see to share back and give back to their community, to volunteer and be mentored as leaders. And a lot of these kids have been through our programs, have been part of the Soulful Richmond summer program in the past, and now they're back serving their cousins and their little siblings and really making a difference. So that was really a great experience for me. I wanted to share that Trustee Chakura and I have met twice now on the ad hoc committee that we proposed a couple months ago when we were in April, I think, that we were looking at the uses of our facilities and especially how we prioritize nonprofit organizations and comply with the Civic Center. Thank you. I knew I was getting it wrong. So we met with our lawyer, Natasha Sawadi, who is here today, and Dr. Rob Cogland. And we started by actually revising our admin regulations because we figured that's where the details of the nitty gritty gets down and asking like, well, what happens? And then what next? And how do we make decisions? And then once that is beefed up and really both complies with the law as well as is what we think is appropriate, we'll then update our policy because as we looked at it, our last policy on facility use was from 1990. So we hope to have that to you all to look at with our recommendations by August is what we're looking at right now. And I also wanted to let you know, I know some of my board I've told, but just to share with my board that I have been planning an event on August 13th. It's going to be to discuss immigration and education with other Orange County trustees from other districts. The idea is to learn from one another, to share with each other both new trends that are affecting our students, patterns that we're seeing, as well as some of the best practices and lessons that we've learned. So I'm hoping to share what we've learned at FSD, some of the good work we've been doing, as well as learn from other groups and other trustees as well, and just brainstorm of how do we keep progressing, being proactive to protect and support our students and our families as best we can. So I'll report back to the board with what we learned from that. Because, as we're preparing for this new school year, I do think we have a lot of work to do. As we've all mentioned, and we are all feeling some of our families and our students have traveled, they've gone to summer camp, they've done all kinds of fun things, but others have stayed home this summer and out of fear. And it's been a summer very much like what we saw in COVID with lockdown kind of situations for many of our families. It has been another COVID situation this summer. And so I'm deeply concerned about what that will mean for the well-being of our kids, how that will impact them both in the short term and the long term as they can continue and return to school. So I think we as a district, I know we as a board very much so, and our staff we just want to continue to be mindful and listen and support our kids as many of them have experienced great trauma and loss this summer, and we want to be responding as best we can as they come back to school and spend time with us.
All right, everybody's been very busy. I echo everything you guys have said. You don't need to hear it again, but we thank our entire district for stepping forward to protect our children, our families, so that they are safe and they're fed and they know that we're supportive. We are starting our school year, and so that's always exciting to be able to start that, starting with your manager's retreat, bringing everybody together and just watching the camaraderie of our district and bringing that time where they set aside that uninterrupted time to just get together, right, and to speak and to talk and to get to know one another and to work on your goals and to be a cohesive team. And I think it's very important to do that at the beginning of a year. It's motivating, it gets people invigorated, and I think it makes everyone excited to start. In addition to that, with the Summer Institute coming up, all the hard work, seeing the classes that are going to be provided through professional development. Thank you for Dr. Brown and all of your staff and everyone else that's putting into this. I see so many different people teaching classes, educators, teaching educators and helping others rise up. A couple great keynote speakers. So as a board, I think that we've all got that schedule right. So we know that we're welcome to drop in. We're welcome to be part of it, to listen to the keynote speakers. So just make sure that, I don't know if that's on your calendar, but if you guys can sneak over there at any time, that would be great. It's a great time to show our staff that we're supportive, along with the Welcome Back Barbecue, right? And that's coming up. And that, again, I remember, there's been times when we've kind of done different things in our school district on how to bring people back, from, bringing them all into one big room and having a special speaker, to nothing, right? Then to back to school barbecue. So that's on Thursday, August 7th. Again, to try and, we're motivating, we're out there, we're really trying to start our year off right. Because we do know that offices are opening tomorrow, right? And so we know that it's going to be people are going to be in there trying to change classes, trying to get what our parents are, so eager to start school, so eager to see the office staff, so eager to get all of their issues addressed. So we know that's a real busy time for our staff members. I didn't forget, but we did have the opportunity to stop by. We had so many plays at the beginning of summer. Watching our students just shine on the stage, watching them come together, watching parents and guardians and family members rooting their children on is always it's a great event as well. So we thank all of you, all of the hard summer work that you put into it. I'm sure you didn't get very much time off. Seems like we're here, but we do appreciate everything. So, on that note, we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, we've got our information from our associations. Do we have anyone from DLAC here?
No report from DLAC.
Do we have a statement or anything? No?
No report from any of our associates.
PTA?
Nope.
CSEA?
They're all on summer break still.
Oh, you're?
Yes.
Okay.
They left you by yourself over here?
Can you hear me now? Good evening, President Berryman, Dr. Pleka, and Lou, Dr. Hammett, members of the board and cabinet. I am Tatiana Ortega, chapter vice president, and speaking on behalf of CSCA. First off, thank you to all the hard work that classified and certificated staff did over the summer, servicing our students either through nutrition services, during summer encore camps, maintenance and operations, transportation, our custodians, the techs and TLMAs and IIS, and all that staff were still working hard here at the district office. I had the honor of representing our chapter for the second time at the CSCA annual conference, held in Reno. I was joined by my new delegate, Joshua Culpepper, and M&O secretary, and also our chapter site representative on our executive board. We were proud to present a check in the amount of $1,300 voted on by our chapter members here at FSD at the first annual donation in the amount of $1,300 to the Dorothy Bajork Assistance Fund at the conference. This fund provides financial assistance for our union siblings through the state for those facing unexpected financial hardship. With the help of other chapters, the fund raised over $100,000 at conference from both in-person and online donations. The Dorothy Bajork Assistance Fund is made up entirely of member donations, with the amounts of going towards natural disasters we experience in California, such as the extensive wildfires in January. The fund is a vital resource for our members. Next year, our union will celebrate a huge milestone in Vegas with CSCA hosting their 100th year anniversary. One of the highlights of the conference are Ed Days, classes that are offered for personal and professional development classes. Classes offered this year included CalPERS benefits, AI in the workplace, and compassion fatigue. My favorite class was Seeing Beyond Bias, building awareness and equity in union leadership. In this class, the presenters started off with sharing a video of all different people dressed in their own manners, like nurses, business-attired professionals, and even some dressed in bikers' clothing. Then an announcer asked for everyone in the room to answer some questions honestly. The individuals were then asked questions such as, please move to the left of the room if you're a step-parent, or if you volunteer in your community. As all the individuals moved amongst one another, it was a highlight that even though we all appear differently, we are not that different at all. The presenter then went on to emphasize how bias is not inherently negative. It's human, but requires intentional self-awareness to mitigate. Another highlight from the conference was our keynote speaker by the name of Kath Koshal, a former cricket player from Australia who is the founder of the Kindness Factory, an organization that aims to inspire and encourage acts of kindness, who have over 7 million recorded acts of kindness and develops a kindness curriculum for schools. Kath's personal story and journey that guided her to finding her organization was not only phenomenal, but heartwarming. After overcoming not one or two tragedies, she overcame 4. And in light of all of it, shared that no matter the circumstance she faced, she was constantly encouraged by kind people to keep going. I encourage you all here to look up her courageous story, and I hope, as it did for me, that to you too can see how far any small act of kindness can help someone else. In these times that we face now, again, remember, kindness spreads everywhere. Welcome back to the new school year, and we cannot wait to see what's in store. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome back. All right, FIDA? No one from FIDA?
No report from FIDA.
TESMA? No report this evening?
That does not have
Okay.
report.
All right. Any public comments? No public comments? All right. No public
Comments
comments.
there.
Okay, then we'll move on to approving our minutes from the June 17th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the June 17th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, we've got an agenda approval. We do have one amendment. Consent agenda number 9, right? So everybody has an amendment, 1A. So we have a change for 1A. So we can approve the agenda with the amendment
So is that your bad?
in the consent calendar.
So moved.
Thank you. There's a second to approve the agenda
Second.
with the, okay, all right. All right, so it's been moved that we approve the agenda with the amended consent item 1A. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
We're going to move on to presentations. So we have a update on our significant disproportionality presentation. We have Dr. Julie Brandon and Tammy Camarada. All right. Our board has a handout.
All right. Good evening, President Berryman, Board of Trustees, Dr. Hammett, Dr. Pletka, wherever you are, and members of the Executive Cabinet. I'm Dr. Julie Brandon, Director of Student Support Services, and I'm joined this evening by Tammy Camarada, Director of Special Education. Student Support Services is a division within Human Resources, and our responsibilities span across nursing, mental health, behavioral support, federal and state compliance, staff development, and all aspects of special education. Tonight, we are honored to share an update on our journey addressing disproportionality. The collaboration amongst educational services, child welfare and attendance, and student support services, along with our site leadership teams, has truly been exceptional. Together, we are aligned in our efforts towards shared goals. We have accomplished a great deal in a short period of time, and I'm genuinely excited for the year ahead as we move into the implementation phase of this important work.
So why are we here? Maybe you're asking yourselves that. So each year, our school districts are required to undergo audits in various areas. These audits are to ensure that all student subgroups are being served equitably and that there are no patterns of over-identification. Disproportionality is the overrepresentation of a particular group of students who've been identified for special education services as at a higher rate than would be expected compared to other groups. The Fullerton School District was found to be disproportionately identifying Hispanic students under specific learning eligibility. This is under Indicator 10. Indicator 10 tracks the disproportionate representation of racial and ethnic groups. This requires us to examine our practices, improve how we evaluate and support students to ensure that all students have access to equitable opportunities. Data-driven decision making. So our data indicates that overall collaboration is needed across FSD. RTI, the implementation consists across all sites. Is it working? This is where the MTSS process comes in. Attendance is an exclusionary factor when we look at qualifying students. If you're not attending school, you're not able to learn. Referrals are a 50-50 split between both the parents and the SIT teams at the school sites. English-only students in grades 1 through 4 are most likely to qualify for special ed under SLD, followed by RFIP students and then ELs. Relevant documentation is going to be updated. Assessment training on the CLIM, which is Cultural Language Interpretive Matrix, because in special ed we have an acronym for everything, for ELs with school psychs and our speech pathologists. And our cultural considerations, we want the teams to know when to refer and when not to refer our students for special ed. So here's our updates on SLD identification. You can see in the box on the left, during the 23-24 school year, in August, we started with 286 kiddos, and in May, we had 331. So we had a 45 increase of students. Huh? Yeah, 45. And then if you look in the box on the right, in the 24-25 school year, we started in August with 266 students and ended in May with 299. So we increased 33 students for that school year. We did have 116 students that exited special education during the 24-25 school year. 15, there was a revocation of parent consent where they no longer wanted their child on an IEP. And we did have 101 students that exited special education as they no longer qualified.
So as part of the state's disproportionality mandate, our educational partners team engaged in an extensive collaboration to develop a plan that directly addresses the needs of our district. After careful analysis, we chose to focus on strengthening our multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, with particular emphasis on Tier 1, which is core classroom instruction, and Tier 2, which are targeted small group, in-class, and coaching-based supports. The state also required that we integrate research-based, high-leverage strategies along with clearly defined implementation plans and measurable outcomes. The activities outlined in this slide were specifically designed in response to our disproportionality data. One such high-leverage strategy is to address and integrate research-based interventions across both Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction. So within Tier 1, we want to embed supports into the general education classroom practices to ensure that all students receive high-quality differentiated instruction. In our Tier 2, we want to provide targeted small group interventions, both in class and through the pull-out models that you'll see via the RTI coaches to address student-specific needs identified by data. This proactive approach is designed to support students before considering referrals to special education. To reduce unnecessary special education referrals through an effective MTSS frameworks, schools will retrain staff in MTSS protocols and data-driven decision-making, conduct regular universal screenings to identify at-risk students early, implement evidence-based intervention tailored to identified needs, monitor student progress consistently, and adjust strategies accordingly. Fosters strong collaboration between general education and special education teams to ensure shared insight and cohesive support. We will also actively engage families from the outset and maintain open lines of communication to reinforce support at home. This comprehensive and preventative strategy ensures that we meet the diverse needs of all students while minimizing misidentification for special education services. Our measurable outcomes are that by June 2026, Fullerton School District will analyze and realign existing practices in response to intervention, ensure that culturally responsive practices are implemented consistently and equitably across all school sites. And as a result of this alignment, the specific learning disability, or SLD, risk ratio will be reduced from 4 to below 3. Okay, chronic absenteeism, as we know, has a direct impact on student achievement. When students miss significant instructional time, they often fall behind, and those academic gaps can mistakenly be viewed as signs of a learning disability. This slide highlights how we're addressing that challenge. By focusing on attendance improvement strategies, we aim to ensure students are present, supported, and progressing so their academic needs are met through general education interventions rather than being misidentified as requiring special education. Our goal, as reflected on the California dashboard, is a reduction of 3% in chronic absenteeism. This is not only important for student success, but also plays a key role in our disproportionality work, helping us reduce the number of inappropriate referrals for SLD identification. We've been busy. Okay, so we have made significant progress. So to say that our activities since plan approval in January, so all this has happened since January, everything on this slide, has been a whirlwind. It's an understatement. So to strengthen system-wide supports and ensure consistent implementation of MTSS, the district has developed a comprehensive MTSS guidebook. This resource will serve as a foundational tool for all school sites, outlining key processes and expectations. Accompanying the guidebook is a newly designed MTSS flowchart that integrates academic, social, emotional, and behavioral supports, providing clear and cohesive visual roadmaps for intervention pathways. In tandem with these resources, the district is also introducing a tiered intervention profiles document with a specific focus on behavior. This tool will help educators match student needs with appropriate evidence-based strategies across tiers. Instructionally, there is a renewed emphasis on strengthening Tier 1 and Tier 2 classroom practices, ensuring students receive high-quality, differentiated support before referrals are considered. Additionally, the successful Orton-Gillingham Literacy Program is being expanded to third grade teachers to enhance early literacy interventions. To further support student engagement and reduce chronic absenteeism, the district has committed hiring 2 student support advocates, or SSAs, social services associates, focused on attendance, one who's already joined our team. So collectively, these initiatives reflect a proactive and integrated approach to meeting the diverse needs of students.
Staff development. Educating our culturally and linguistically diverse students. The CLIM, our cultural language interpretive matrix training with all of our speech pathologists. This will equip them with culture responsive practices, ensuring that their evaluations and interventions reflect the students' linguistic backgrounds to avoid any bias. Attendance roadmap, as attendance is foundational to student success. The roadmap will give guidance and intervention steps to address chronic absenteeism, in addition with our SSA. FSD, RTI Tier 3 family meeting. This is critical for our response to intervention framework. RTI PLC meetings will focus on strengthening our RTI professional learning community meetings. These PLCs are an opportunity for staff to collaborate on intervention strategies, review student data, and ensure culturally and linguistically appropriate supports that are in place. MTSS alignment meetings, we work to unify academic, behavioral, and social emotional supports under one cohesive system. We also have Danielle Nava training with all special education providers. This will focus on best practices, including IEP development, service delivery models, and family engagement. This will ensure that all SPED staff are prepared to deliver inclusive, culturally responsive services.
One of the most exciting parts of this journey has been the opportunities that it's created for deeper connection and meaningful change across our district. Thanks to the work around significant disproportionality, we've been able to break out of the traditional silos and engage in genuine collaboration across departments and all 20 of our school sites. One powerful example is the analysis of 60 case studies with 3 selected from each FSD site. This activity gave school leadership a chance to reflect on current practices, examine patterns, and engage in data-informed decisions around outcomes. We also launched the FSD Special Education Parent Alliance, creating an important platform for family voice, feedback, and partnership in special education planning. Another milestone is the upcoming FSD Family Fair, a student event. We'll have an event for families of students receiving special education services. It will be a fun and welcoming event with barbecue, resource booths, activities, games, and prizes. We'd love to have you join us on September 19th. Write that down, September 19th, at Pacific Drive. Finally, our work has informed important policy updates. We've initiated new board policies to better reflect equity commitments and have updated related policies that are personnel related and policies which govern the identification and evaluation for special education services. These changes reflect how our efforts are making a lasting systemic impact, not only for students, but for families and staff district-wide. Okay, adequate growth. A committee was created that included lead principals, student support services, and ed services. So what does determine adequate growth? How do we know when to exit students from Tier 3 RTI literacy coach supports, so out of classroom supports, in RTI? Adequate growth is determined via research-based guidelines from the National Center of Intensive Intervention, or NCII, and uses trend line analysis, looking at data points to ensure that students are making growth towards their RTI literacy goals, which are specific to each student's grade level and baseline data points. Coaches receive ongoing training to be able to monitor individual students' trend lines and progress monitoring. Next slide, please. Okay, as you look at this slide, please remember that all students participating in RTI are there for different skill sets. For example, in the area of phonological awareness and phonics, it can include upwards of 10 separate skills that are assessed. Each student's adequate progress is determined by grade level and unique baseline data. That baseline data is comprised of the prior year's SBAC scores, iReady literacy task progress monitoring, and other methods of teacher universal screenings and diagnostics.
Next steps. So we're excited to have Dr. Mario Acosta joining us as the keynote speaker for our Summer Institute. He'll focus on strengthening our Tier 1 and our Tier 2 supports. On November 1st, we have Dr. Tyrone Howard, who will present on cultural proficiency. In addition to that, he'll also be working with our teams across 8 school sites to deepen our practices and support the integration of cultural responsiveness. We have, like Julie mentioned, our 3rd grade expansion, where teachers will be trained as part of our Orton-Gillingham approach with cohorts for the 25-26 school year. And this will ensure that there's continuity in our structured literacy work. We have OCDE audits of our documents, such as our MTSS, our RTI, and our special education handbooks coming up. We will continue an ongoing collaboration with all of our school sites around the MTSS process, RTI practices, and improving attendance. And report cards now, we're going to have them reflect comments on progress that students are making through their coach-led RTI supports. Also, we have our SLD-specific case study work for our psychs to ensure thorough evaluation before qualifying decisions, including intentional decisions of any exclusionary factors. Teams will meet to review these cases carefully and strengthen the practices in the FSD.
We've been busy.
Breathe.
And before any questions, I would like to echo this plan was new, and the initial portion I kind of view like an episode of CSI, as Julie and her team pulled out artifacts and pulled out IEPs and took data and just did a lot of in-depth looking for clues into what has led to the number of students that were identified, and really what trends do we see and what things did we see that could be improved. And then developing this plan with the committee, bringing along a committee. And then in the last 6 months, there has been such a flurry of activity. And the real strength of this process and protocol has been that it's not just been the special education department, but it's been pulling in the Ed Services Department and what we do through our MTSS and RTI strategies, pulling in child welfare and attendance and our SEL department on how do we support with students with attendance and how do we make sure that students are coming to school, and if they're in an intervention, that they're not missing an intervention. I heard someone describe the other day that the intervention is like taking an antibiotic. What is the one thing the pharmacist says to you when you get an antibiotic?
Finish it.
Take the whole thing and don't stop, and then don't take too much. Don't take too much at once. Don't take the whole thing and don't stop in the middle and then suddenly start to retake it. That's a lot like the interventions that we offer. We need the students not to get too much, so don't take it all at once. We need them to take the whole intervention, and we need to make sure they don't stop in the middle and then try to pick it back up. So all of this work has really come together to bring us to a point where we're very excited to be able to launch the attendance incentives we're doing this year, the MTSS and RTI processes that we're going to be putting in place, and the changes and the strengthening of our assessment and our analysis of general education students before they're ever placed into special education programs or even tested for disabilities.
Thank you. That's a lot of information. I'm sure that we have some comments and some questions from our board members. So does somebody want to start? Any comments or questions that you have for our speakers here? Anyone? No?
I can start. I was curious about the number where it mentions that 116 students were exited from special education. Obviously, you said 15 parents said they withdrew their consent to be a part of that program or IEP in special education. But of the 101 that exited, it says no longer qualified. Can you explain why? Because was that more about misidentification, or because kids don't outgrow a true ability? So
It just means they met all of their goals and they were able to test out. So it's like graduation almost.
Because the purpose of special ed isn't so they're in it forever.
Mhm.
They're supposed to get those intense interventions,
Mhm.
and then the goal is to one day exit special education. So those are like those celebratory cases. They're at grade level, they've met their goals, they don't need that level of intensive support anymore. They might have school-based interventions, but they don't need that level of support of an IEP with those type of interventions.
So we celebrate those when kids can exit from special education because they're making such great academic progress that they no longer require that intensive support, like Tammy said.
We'd
Not really visible because we don't want them to be life special ed if they're able to get everything that they need to exit.
And the way we talk often about this, Ruthie, is like you say, a child doesn't lose their disability. Disability remains. The question is, what tier of instruction or support needs to be provided? And very often special education supports are that tier 3. They're the strongest, most individualized support you can provide. However, as the child learns and gains new skills and learns to adapt and use the interventions, then we look at ramping that child into tier 1, which is classroom instruction from the classroom teacher, and tier 2, which is intervention provided by the classroom teacher in the classroom. And as we're able to move students from that tier 3, because they've learned the skills and learned how to work within the disability, to those lower tiers, that's what you'll see these students being exited here.
Okay. I am grateful to see the inclusion of the just more, it looks like inclusion of parents in the RTI process too. I saw that family meetings and parents will be involved through report cards and things like that. I think that's a really great addition. I want to just affirm that because I think oftentimes RTI is a mystery to parents. So to help have them be included and be part of the team that's working towards the goals of the kids, that's really, really great. I also love to see that we're identifying 2 new SSAs to look specifically at absenteeism. And I think that obviously that has great impact on the way that our kids are performing academically and whether they're being correctly identified and supported for academic growth. But I think also there's lots of reasons why kids are absent and lots of reasons why it affects their well-being. So I hope that as a district, we will absolutely benefit from those folks that are paying more attention to those things. So thank you.
That was actually, hi, thank you all for all your work. I can't believe this has all been done since January. Thank you. It's been a
Don't
lot.
sleep much.
That was actually one of my questions, like what made them unqualified? But then also a follow-up question was, is this an average number per year of 101? Like, is this really how many no longer qualify on a yearly basis? Or is this just the big number because we went in, because this was an issue, and we went in and we decided to get the number down?
I think it depends. It's different each year. A lot of times students will meet their speech goals. So a lot of those students were exited just from speech as opposed to like RSP or SDC. So I think that the numbers fluctuate every year. It's something we can certainly pull if that's something that you'd like to see. You know, we always get excited when kids exit because that's a big deal for them. You know, they're no longer pulled from their classroom to receive extra services. So yeah, I think it just changes every year. Sometimes you see more, sometimes you see less. It really depends because it's unique to each child. When they're ready, and we make sure that they're ready before we exit them. So,
Okay. And I'm happy to hear it's 101 in general from special education. It's not from any one category, correct?
right.
And then also, same as Ruthie, I'm happy to hear that RTI is including parents because one of my questions, you know, we got this presentation before, so I wrote some of my questions, and it was, what role can parents or English language learner parents and our community partners play in ensuring the implementation, that it stays, that it sticks? What can our parents do? I see you're going to include them in the RTI process and teach them what RTI processes we're doing with these children to get them to progress. But what can we tell our parents? Are we reporting? Are we giving feedback to our families, especially those who were affected in the past by being misidentified? Are we reporting to those families?
So, so yes.
Sorry,
And so disproportionality, they've already been identified as special education. RTI is prior to that special education referral. So just in speaking from personal experience, our coach would send out progress reports frequently. The parents were very, very well aware of what skills students were working on. I know that we provided extra like books and whatever skill, because there's so many skills that are involved within the RTI literacy process. We would send things home to parents saying, hey, this is what we're working on now. This is how you can help at home. So I think just reiterating that communication, because we do send out progress reports. Emily, how often? Every cycle. Yeah.
Yes, each cycle is approximately 6 weeks. And so what happens is the parents are notified that the student is in an RTI cycle. There's a notification provided to the parent as well. These are the things that we'll be working on through this cycle. We also do encourage the importance of school attendance. You know, as we talked about antibiotics, we need you to take the whole thing, please. And then there also is a report out then at the end to the parent with a report on this is what happened during this RTI cycle, with the focus on did your child make what we would consider to be adequate progress. And then what we've added is the new piece is we're actually adding as well comments and feedback to the report card. So the parent will almost get a double dose of you're getting the feedback from the 6-week intervention cycle in addition to comments on the report card.
Okay. I was also happy to hear that you're going to try to get the number below 3. But one of my questions was, or is, how will the Orange County Department of Education audit or completed documents to ensure that teachers and staff are no longer over-identifying Hispanic students for special learning? Will the audit be more in the classroom, in person, observing, or will it be just paperwork, a report that you make and you send in?
All of the documents that we've created as a result of disproportionality, we're sending all of the documents. Like Emily and her team created the MTSS handbook. It's amazing. We're sending that. We're sending, once we finish it, our special education handbook. Any documentation that we have created, we're going to be sending it to the county to make sure that we're looking at everything through a lens of equity, to make sure that we have not missed a thing.
And then everything comes back with
Everything comes back with edits, suggestions. and we kind of meet again as a team and we start to edit and edit and edit. So it's a process, but we want to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned and that we're doing, our due diligence to make sure that students are getting the support they need.
Amazing. Thank you.
And that's why we're making sure that our psychs and our SLPs are trained on the CLIM as well too, to be able to weed that out. Is it a special education or is it a language acquisition? So that's why everybody's going through that training as well.
I love that.
Right, and that just underscores the importance of Tier 1 instruction, which includes ELD for our kiddos.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for all the effort that's gone into this. I just wanted to clarify a little bit. It's not exactly like Schrodinger's cat, but as I recall, the identification or the data that we were over-identifying was from several years ago.
Correct.
And we won't know if we're doing the right things for another couple more years about, for example, 2025. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
So we're like in the middle of the course correction, and we think these things are going to help us get to numbers that show that we're not over-identifying.
Right. And the interesting part about it is it's always a moving target, and it's based on our gen ed enrollment numbers, our sped enrollment numbers, our different subgroup numbers. So it's always a moving target because those numbers, if you were to look at our enrollment, it fluctuates so much from month to month. Disproportionality calculations are tied directly to that. So we look at, like I said, how many Hispanic students are enrolled in the district. That could change monthly by 150 kids. We actually monitor that. We have our Jennifer Kwan, who's one of our IIS analysts in our department. I said to her, I'm like, let's create a tracker so we can see what's going on here. And we noticed the correlation because if you have more students enrolling that are of one subgroup, but you have less students overall, that drives your percentages up. Does that make sense? So it's consistently moving every single month. And that's what makes it difficult.
And it's also going to fluctuate too, because we get kiddos into our district every day with the current IEPs from other districts. So if they're already, Hispanic SLD, we are then adopting those students with an IEP of an eligibility of SLD.
And we're monitoring that as well.
And if I don't want to embarrass Julie and Tammy, but I think one of the things, because I meet with them frequently, I think every day, as a matter of fact, sometimes multiple times a day.
Probably more than Dr. Chadwell.
Yeah, probably.
No, actually not. But I think one of the things that they're not talking about is, though it is about numbers as far as identification, it's not about numbers when it comes to students. And one of the things that really has been the core value that they talk about all the time is we don't want to over-identify students, and we don't want to identify students who shouldn't be placed in the program. So it really comes down to, for both of them, this core value, this true north of saying, we only want to ensure that students who should be identified because they have a true learning disability and need the support are placed on an IEP. If it's another cause, if the student didn't have regular school attendance, if the student has another language other than English that they speak, if it's another cause that's not special education, let's don't identify them. And I know they wouldn't say that out loud, but I want to make sure that it's noted here in this meeting.
Thank you. And I think one of the most interesting things when we first started to do the deep dive into this was that you found that some parents were requesting the special education designation. What have we learned about those motivations and that sort of how that complicates our data?
Well, people, at the end of the day, they need to be tested. So if they qualify, then they'll qualify for an IEP. But if they don't qualify, and it's a very extensive battery of tests that the school psychologist does, that the teachers do, if speech is involved, the speech therapist does, if they don't qualify, if they don't meet that criteria, then they're not going to be put on an IEP. But we can still do school-based intervention.
Right. And I think too, obviously as parents, we want what's best for our kids. And if we see that they're not making progress, we want to address the why behind it. So a lot of times what happens is, for example, you'll get a letter from someone saying, I'd like to have my child assessed for special education. And that just starts the entire process. You have a student intervention team meeting, you meet with a family, you listen to their concerns, you break out all of the data, right? You have a comprehensive team there. You look at everything from report cards to behavior to attendance to, like, you're trying to find out the root cause of what's going on. And sometimes if students, there might be a misunderstanding as to what special education provides, right? So we try at those meetings to explain to families the purpose of special education, and that it's not a place, it's a service, right? And it's unique to each student. So, but you do have to qualify. So we just, like Dr. Hammett said, we want to make sure that the students that truly need the supports that are designated by special education identification are going to the right kiddos. And it's hard when students don't qualify, because oftentimes, people are scratching their heads because there's still something going on, and then the mystery deepens even more, and we have to really dig deeper, to find out why the student isn't making progress. And
Is
that's
that
hard for parents. I mean, I have 3 kids. 2 of mine had IEPs.
is that where the 60 case studies that you analyzed, was that instructive in that process? Was that part of the deep dive?
Yes. So every school site had to pick 3 students, and it was a very comprehensive, and by very comprehensive, I mean 8 pages long of questions. And so our schools did that throughout last year, and they looked at everything from, pre-referral information, attendance, behavior, and it was so comprehensive. It took a significant amount of time to complete those reports. And so what I did is I gathered all of them, lovingly sent them to the state, said, here you go, here's some fun reading for you. But I went through, because this is who I am, and I analyzed every single case study, because I don't sleep. And so, we were able to gather some data, which I'll be sharing with principals soon.
And then my last question. Sorry, thank you so much for going into all of this. Because, there's a scenario where a couple years out, despite this deep dive, despite being more culturally responsive, maybe due to our average daily attendance, maybe through just the numbers, it's just how the numbers work out, we're still over-identifying based on the state's criteria. But then have we developed the criteria to say, well, look, this is just actually what our situation is. This isn't, look at all the work that we've done to make sure that there were no biases. Look at all the work that we've done to make sure it wasn't just attendance or just language. Right?
Possible.
We just defend ourselves with the data.
You're right. It's
That's sort of how that would work out.
And I can speak to that too, Aruni. I think one of the issues we're seeing is more and more and more districts are falling into the significant disproportionality category. Every year that number is growing very, very quickly. So I think that is something that is going to have to be considered at the state level, starting with the California Department of Education and the State Board of Education. But they're going to have to look at the numbers and say, have the numbers we identified, is that truly the mark of significant disproportionality, or is there something else they need to look at? So I think that may be an upcoming issue for all districts.
But at least we will have done our due diligence. So thank you so much.
our pleasure.
Yeah, could you tell us more about the Alliance? When are they meeting? How are they meeting? And what you hope to get out of that?
So we've had one meeting so far. We have 4 scheduled throughout this year. And really our goal is to kind of train parents to understand and guide other families through the special education identification process. A lot of times when you are presented with here's your battery of assessments, go fill these out at home, it's really scary to a parent. I mean, I remember, just speaking from personal experience, getting a bunch of paperwork and really not having that, even as a teacher, not having the depth of understanding to really understand the entire process of what it was. And so our goal is to kind of empower our parents and create ambassadors to help other parents at the school site. So we've had our inaugural meeting, which went really well.
Yeah.
We had great participation, and we plan on meeting 4 times a year. We're going to be hosting 2 meetings. We're thinking the same day, one in the morning for parents who can come in the morning and one in the evening for those who can't, for those who are at work. And we generated topics based on their interest, but really the goal is to teach and empower parents as to the process, answer those questions, help people understand that it is a long process. It can be overwhelming, but to just ask questions to make sure that you're, understanding the process all the way through.
And the format of the alliance is very similar to the Champions for Learning, our Champions for Children group, where we have a representative from every single school. And that representative really everyone's invited, but that representative comes and gets the information, is able to go back to the school and share the information and really be that spokesperson and that champion for the students and the parents at the school, and be able to be that link to help provide that extra support and extra information back to the school itself and the students who are on IEP.
Yeah, that
They-
parent-to-parent communication
they
is so key.
Yeah, they can build that community of other parents going through similar things, because a lot of times, they feel so alone because they, if it's their first IEP, if it's their initial, this is all, you get this like 30-page packet of the IEP and then a 50-page packet of the multidisciplinary report, and all this stuff is, like you see, it's all these acronyms we use, and so it helps them, that was one of the feedback that we got from just the first meeting, is how this will really create a sense of community amongst the families, and maybe be able to meet with other parents who've kids in similar ages, and just have that additional support for them as well too.
Right, and that's what prompted us to do the FSD Family Fair in September. So we're pretty excited about that because we have currently over 1,800 students that receive special education services. So we're opening it up to all of those families, and we have there's really cool resources out there for families. For example, John Wayne Airport, we've asked them to come out to have a booth to teach families who have students with, extensive needs, like how to travel, how to navigate an airport, like things like that. We're hoping to have, hoop stars and goal stars come out and work with our families so that, they have sports. What else? There's it's part resource fair where we have like vendors.
Yeah.
We've contacted our mental health, supports. So like Hazel Health, Care Solace, Daybreak to come out and man a booth. Activities for the students. We're working with all the arts department. We're working with
we have lots of sensory activities
sensory
for the
booths.
students. We've got the therapy dogs coming in.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a combination of both, like fun fair, but then provide resources to the families too.
We'll be opening a little early for sensory sensitive students.
Yeah.
So that those students can come and participate, but without the distraction or items that may sometimes be sensory overwhelming for students or music, too many crowds. So we're really trying to tailor the event so that the maximum number of students and parents can participate, but that we're being sensitive to the needs of particular students and their families.
We're excited.
Thank you for standing up this group. And I'm sure you already are, but please consider language access issues too, because like you mentioned, the first IEP for a particular family might be intimidating, right? It might take a couple years before you feel brave enough to ask a question and overcome a language barrier. So I'm sure you're already considering it, but for these meetings and outreach to keep in mind that there are a lot of languages that are spoken.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The thing about me is I always keep everything in perspective through language because I'm an English learner. And so I always remember what it's like to go to school and not know what everybody's saying. So that's very near and dear to me personally. And so I'm always very much so aware of how people speak and the way that things are explained to parents. So I try really hard to champion that as well. So.
Thank you. Sorry, just to interrupt. The September 19th event, this is going to go out to this information is going to go out to all of our special education students, correct? Or the entire district? Is everyone invited?
Special education families.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to say I've heard a lot of positive feedback from parents around this opportunity to get to know one another and support each other. I think because there is still a stigma oftentimes associated with disability, and as well as I think a lot of times folks feel like it's confidential personal information. And so it feels strange to reach out and say, are you one too? Right. And so to have the ability to come and say, we're all included and be a part of something bigger, I think is helping break down some of those barriers that will, I think, be a really great thing. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. And that's why we really want to make it sensory friendly, because we know, a regular fair they might not want to go to because it's so overwhelming. So that's why we're really focused on making sure that it's sensory appropriate for the population that's being invited.
It's great idea. A couple of just follow-up questions. When you talk about the 8 sites that we're going to have a little bit of additional information, are those 8 sites particular sites? Are they sites that might need a little bit more assistance because maybe they had some over-identification or, okay, so that's.
Yeah, and remember the data is pretty old. So, and that's the hard part about disproportionality is we're stuck with data that's several years old now.
Absolutely.
And so, since then, everybody has had a heightened awareness. So, but yes, because of the plan and the way everything is mandated and the way everything has to be written, we've identified 8 schools that were needing some extra love.
Right. You talk about our students exiting the program. Are we putting together supports for them as they exit to check back?
Yeah,
Like we
absolutely.
normally would anytime a child gets reclassified.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We don't want to just cut them off.
Yeah.
Right. When a child is identified, is there a checklist? I mean, so at this point, when we talk about we're doing everything that we possibly can to make sure that we're not over-identifying, that we're not putting someone in these programs that truly doesn't qualify. Is there a final sign-off? I mean, is it something that goes through you or through someone to get that prior?
IEP team decision, and it's based on all of that data and assessment that the team at the school site has undergone. So really, it's that conversation. So there's no, for legal reasons, there's nothing that says, oh, did you do this? Check. Did you do this? Check. So you definitely have a process that we go through from, all of the rating scales that parents fill out. Rating scales for teachers. We do the multidisciplinary report, which has a host of information. We look at all suspected areas of disability, and so there's extensive assessment that, like Tammy said earlier, it's the ed specialist, it's classroom data, it's any extra service providers like maybe occupational therapists or speech, the school psychologist. So it is a very, very comprehensive.
That would probably be like the checklist.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just
So
saying
it's not necessarily a checklist.
right. But there's someone at least looking to say, okay,
Oh, absolutely.
everything that we need
Absolutely.
to do has been done in this.
And
Yes.
we've even added extra layers through disproportionality. So before we would have what we called our interdepartmental roundtable meetings, and we would meet with all the school psychologists. We would talk about the different cases that they were having, and we would basically go through the data, and other school psychologists were giving ideas. What else could you do? What else could you try? Have you tried this? So that was something that we've been doing. So in addition, what we're doing now is we're doing specific like roundtable conversations with school psychologists prior to SLD identification. So our team will be looking at every single one to say, yeah, you did your due diligence here. Yes, you did check to make sure that they're not an English learner. Yes, you did make sure that, the attendance was considered. Oh, they're in school. Yes, they're attending response to intervention. They're getting all of their core instruction. So we're adding all of those extra layers to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to not over-identify.
Because then that adds to Aruni's comment about as we look forward to, as we move forward, if we are getting those numbers and they are wonky, that we can say we've done everything in our power, that we feel confident that we're not over-identifying, and that everyone that has been classified is classified legitimately, and we've done everything that we can.
And part of that work too, I really want to compliment Emily and her team, is this whole idea of the MTSS flowchart. So really looking at general education students and what are we doing to provide intervention to general education students, and then really being able to look to Aruni's point and say, okay, we have these students who have received cycles of Tier 3 general education intervention, and they're not making adequate progress. So really that adequate progress is a very important measure for us to be able to say, if they are making progress and it's adequate progress, then we wouldn't assess these students. But if they're not making adequate progress and we have that data and that really is the number, then maybe it's the metrics that's been set up to measure what that looks like and not the process by which we're using.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for answering everyone's questions and all of your information on this. We truly, truly appreciate it, and whatever we can do to help you, to help our students, we're here for you.
Thank you.
Okay. On that note, we're going to move through and get to our consent agenda. Do we have any items on our consent agenda that need to be pulled or discussed before voting on them? And remember, we have a modified or a change.
May I request item LL and MM be pulled for separate discussion?
Pulled or just discussed?
Um,
You just want to say
pull-
something about them?
Pulled, please.
Okay, so we want to pull LL
And MM.
and MM. Okay. All right. Anyone else want to pull anything, or you want to comment on any?
Just want to comment on the Nicholas Carpenter's agreement.
WW. WW. You want to comment on it?
Yeah, well, I guess,
Great.
okay, so I was trying to get to this in my opening comment. My brother went to Nicholas, he's 8 years older than me. He took wood shop, and he made the wooden bench in wood shop. And for the next 20 years, we pointed at that bench. It was in our kitchen. It helped my mom reach the stuff on the higher cabinets. And I swear when my dad would be like upset with me, like, you can't even make a bench. And I think that's why I didn't take wood shop. But when I was at Nicholas, we had typing, we had electronics. Mr. Lund was fantastic. We had mechanical drawing, we had metal shop, and we had wood shop. And I just know, I know in my heart, and I know from speaking to them years later, that going to school wasn't always easy for some students. And not everybody needs to go to college. Some people work well with their hands. Some people can look at construction plans and in their mind see how they're going to put this structure together. And that is so important. And the fact that we are setting up a system here at Nicholas, at my junior high, where we can sort of honor that work and the inherent dignity of sort of working with your hands and have this great partnership with the Carpenters is just so meaningful to me. And I'm so grateful, again, to everybody that helped make this happen.
Absolutely. Anyone else? I felt the same way. I felt like I wanted to give a shout out because I think that's over and beyond, to make sure that our students are given the curriculum that is going to help them. In addition, the XX, when we talk about the advantage in speech and debate, so adding an elective for speech and debate as well. The importance, we're approving the importance of professional development for coaching our preschool staff. Right? Our students are coming younger and younger, and our staff, our teachers need more tools to be able to do that, to be able to address that. The QQ, so I want to give a shout out to our Prop 28 and the reporting on that. Just phenomenal things that we've done to add to our arts programs, adding to them, not supplanting them, making sure that we're providing arts to every one of our students, music, because again, as you said, not everyone, everyone has a different passion. All of our students learn differently. They all have different passions. So it's great to be able to provide all of these things for our students. Always nice to have another Coatson Foundation school. And then I had on here, I can't even read my own writing sometimes. Oh, kitchen renovations. Yes. 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 I can't say how much we need that. And then our buses. So anyone else have anything to add or just comment about on consent?
Yeah, I wanted to add something because yes, consent items fly by and we oftentimes don't give them attention, but I do want to point one item out. It's VV, and I'm hoping our teachers especially will see the impact of this, the additions to Power School, monitoring and tracking. Jeremy's been working on this one because it is going to allow us to have more real-time data on absenteeism as well as behaviors in the class that need to be tracked so that administrators can support teachers in responses to that. And as I've served on the board now, this is my third school year starting, one of the biggest challenges that I hear from our teachers is wanting support and tools to address behaviors that are difficult in the classroom and knowing how best to respond and to tease out what's going on and what's going to work. And I think we have to have that balance of both wisdom and knowing the kids, but also data helps us see the patterns and know what's needed. And so look for that, teachers. We're going to see this Power School tool that's going to create more data-informed decision-making to foster that safer learning environment. I think it's a response that our staff are taking to respond to the issues that teachers have been identifying for some time. So I'm really grateful to see that. And it also leads to then more information for parents so that they can see, did my kid show up to that junior high third period on time and what's going on in that classroom? And then they can be part of the solution of finding how do we best support our kids to keep them learning and engaged. And so I think it's great when we bring them all together.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda without LL and MM?
I'll move the balance.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments about anything? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So now we have LL, which is the renewed agreement between the Fullerton School District and Emerald Cove Outdoor Science Camp. And then the same thing for Poly Institute. Do you want to take them separately?
Well, I was hoping to discuss them together. It's just the same.
Okay.
My concerns are the same, even though they're two different camps. So I guess, Doc, may I ask you a few questions? How do we choose what camps to send? Like, how does a school get paired up with a particular camp? What's that process like?
So typically, we have a list of approved camps that we've worked with in the past. Through risk management, they go through a whole vetting process. They create a spreadsheet of all of these different items and questions that they've gone through with each camp, their site. And then we provide that to the principals. The principals in turn work with their teams to decide which camps they want to go to based on different experiences for students by grade level, and then what's also available based on other districts or timing and some such of the sort.
So the individual sites aren't going off into the internet and Googling, oh, that looks cool.
Oh, God.
They're coming up with a pre-vetted list, and they get to choose from that pre-vetted list.
Yes.
How does risk management assess individual camps? And the context for this is, we saw what happened to this camp in Texas, this summer camp in Texas, and what happened to the children there. And presumably it had accreditation of some kind. It had a plan of some kind. And I think the after action report is probably still being developed, but this tragedy looked preventable if things happened, if certain things were done, right? And so that's the kind of context for my concern here, is that how are we assessing camp safety? How is risk management assessing camp safety?
Yes. So obviously, you're absolutely right. What happened this summer was tragic, heartbreak. I can't even still think about it or watch it without just tearing up. But we know that some of the things that have come out in preliminary reports were that, yes, there were things that were preventable. Yes, there were things that were acts of nature that we know may or may not have been. But I think working with ASCIP, working with ACA, they've put together a really comprehensive list of things that we can control, and to make sure that the camps have done those things in terms of evacuation plans, medical procedures, getting to the nearest hospital or safety station or whatever that looks like, who is the staff on call. So there is a list that we are given by our insurance and also the accreditation company to make sure that the camps meet those guidelines. And then from there, we present those, as long as they meet those guidelines, we present those camps to the list of principals.
And just if I can speak to that real quick, James, as risk management does fall under our AHR umbrella. Some of the things that ASCIP is keenly attuned to that we ask in those questions. There's, for example, what sort of emergency plans does the camp have in place? For example, emergency evacuation. How quickly can they get buses there to evacuate students? So all of the camps we work with have a direct connection to a bus connection, maybe a local school district or somebody there, not waiting for FSD to get our buses there to get the kids, but to make sure the kids are able to get out. Another good example is a couple of years ago, we had epic snow. I don't know if you remember that, and our students got trapped up at camp. One of the things that we vet and we make sure is that those camps have adequate food supply to feed our students if they were stuck. So those camps had enough food to get the students through an additional 7 days of camp if they had been stuck for that amount of time. So it's a very detailed checklist, and it's not just asking and having them say yes, but it's also asking them to provide us with verification, documentation, and proof that those things are actually in place.
Yeah, and I think it's that latter, that proof part that gets me concerned, right? Is that this camp in Texas said all the right things, right? Any parent that would ask this camp, presumably, or from what we're told, right? A parent would say, do you have a plan? Like, what's your plan for this? This camp said all the right things. And when it came to actually needing to execute those plans, it wasn't there. The substance wasn't there. And so my concern is that now there's accreditation, right? There are third parties that can verify, like, hey, show me the proof, and I'm a third party. I'm going to verify this. And apparently, I'm told the gold standard is the American Camp Association, right? ACA. And one of these two camps is ACA accredited. So I don't know how ACA is, how good they are, but the industry holds it as a gold standard. It is a third party independent verifier of what the camp alleges to be its preparations, but one other camp doesn't. So that's where maybe I'm being too cautious, right? I'm just expressing out loud. My concern is that if I learned anything from Texas, it's I can't take what the camps tell me at face value. And so how do I know that what the camps are telling us, risk management, the insurance company, how do we know that they're actually prepared for these emergencies without a third party independently verifying their preparations?
So just to clarify, the Pali Camp is fully accredited and they're ready. ECOS actually runs two camp campuses up in Big Bear. One of them is accredited. The second one has met all the requirements. They just haven't yet finished the accreditation process. But they're both run by the same company and have the same requirements. So Mari Montgomery, our risk manager, and Dr. Dana Brown are working with them right now to say, okay, well, how quickly is this going to be done? So we can have that verification process in place.
And do we know how quickly?
We don't, but in the process, they did offer us, if we wanted to go with the other site that is accredited, they would make the switch for us. We would just have to let our principals know.
Okay. All right. Well, I have no further questions.
Just to follow up on that, do we know, I mean, that other site that's like pending accreditation, it hasn't recently failed, right?
No, it has not. They meet all of the same requirements. If you look at our checklist of all of every other accredited camp in terms of like lifeguard, safety, mandated reporter, first aid, nearest to the closest hospital. I mean, they meet everything. They just need their certification through ACA.
And ACA specifically is going to look at some things that really apply to the Texas type setting. Number one is their emergency planning in place. Do they have planning for any sort of emergency, being snowed in, a flood, a forest fire, any of those things that could happen? Do they have evacuation readiness? Meaning, are there buses that could get there and get kids? Do they have four-wheel drive vehicles that could get a student or students in and out or get emergency supplies in? Do they have appropriate firefighting materials and staff trained in doing that? Does their leadership have experience and have they been properly trained and are they able to run a camp like this? So are you, and not to down talk anyone, but it's not someone who's just out of high school. So between the two camp directors, they have over 40 years of combined experience in running camps. They also make sure all their staff are first aid, CPR, mandated reporter, and child abuse trained. And then they have they maintain what they call a rule of three policy, which is staff is not one-on-one with students ever. There's always at least three people around to ensure proper supervision anytime there's information with students. And then the camps also ensure that there is a health office with properly trained staff member in the health office with access to both an RN and medical care as needed. So those are things that you're going to see ACA require of these camps, and these are things that both of these camps have in place. But as Dr. Brown mentioned, the two schools that would be going to the camp that currently does not have the ACA certification, the official document yet, we can work with those schools to place them at the other ECOS camp that does have that.
This is that we have 10 schools going to ECOS this year.
There's two sites for ECOS,
Okay.
and that's why
Only
it's
two,
Size is credited.
one is not.
but only 2 of the 10 are going to the
Right.
accredited.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
So can we vote for MM since Holly is accredited, and it seems like that's okay, right?
Yeah, so
So-
basically, if I'm hearing correctly, we have reasonable certainty that the sites are going to be accredited, right?
Where they go to camp.
Yeah.
Yes, and as Dr. Brown said, we can also work with the sites to
Yeah.
say to them, hey, look, we want to send them all to the accredited version.
Correct.
Those, just in case something happens and that accreditation doesn't get done by the time this go.
Mhm.
That way we could ensure that all the students were at an accredited.
Yeah, that was my question. If they don't know when the accreditation is going to take place, if we do approve them, is it with an approval with, if they don't get could we do an amendment where if they don't get the accreditation, can we send these schools to their other camp, which is already accredited?
We can work with the schools immediately to start changing those dates with the accredited camp, just to make sure that the dates are there for the schools, in the event that the other camp is not accredited in a timely fashion. The other thing I was going to mention that Dr. Hammett mentioned, and James, you brought up with what happened with Camp Mystic, is that these camps, the ones that are accredited, ensure that there is a helipad available. So that way, if they need to bring in a helicopter to do some airlifting or rescuing, that's available. So that's part of the checklist. And also, they make sure there's EMT activity, accessible roads. So that way, that's also a part of the checklist. So the checklist is quite extensive, and they provide that information to us as well.
So we could do, if we did MM separately and then went back to LL and said, as long as they have their accreditation prior to going to camp, we would approve that, or we just don't approve LL now and move on? How do you guys want to do that? MM seems like it's okay.
Yeah, it sounds, I'm happy to move both items. I'm happy with, the
Okay.
assurances that the cabinet has provided.
And I think you have consensus. I think that it's very, very good points, and that we want to make sure our kids, the location of a camp also makes a difference, right? And so I think, you worry about that. But if we can go ahead then move these with our concerns, understanding that what we're looking for.
We'll ensure that the students, when they go to camp or the camp is accredited, we'll work on that.
Absolutely.
Third part in your,
Yep, and then I'm happy to move both items. Thank you.
okay, yeah. So do I have a motion to approve LL and MM?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I want Trustee Cho to know that there's a scenario where all of our kids are at this one camp that's accredited and all the fun stuff is at the other camp. And they're all just like, why aren't we at the fun one? We all are going to say that it
Don't blame me.
showed.
Happy to take that.
That James. Is that board? Is that board? Okay, so we are moving on to discussion. If we break for 5 minutes, can we get back in 5 minutes? Because we do have a presentation and we have somebody that's been waiting for a while. So yes, 5 minutes, personal necessity, and then back. All right.
Check 1, 2. Check, check.
Okay, we're ready? Okay, Rooney, we're ready. Not calling you out or anything, but it's time. Having lawyer talks over there.
I was in the room.
I know. We have secrets? You're missing out on something? Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, we're not voting today, though. Okay. Okay. Community Workforce Agreement. We have our special Natasha here. Great.
Good evening, President Berryman, trustees, Deputy Superintendent Hammett, Cabinet, and community. Very excited to report to you that pursuant to the board's direction and the superintendent, Dr. Plutka's direction, we have been working on a community workforce agreement for the district, between the district and the Los Angeles and Orange Counties Building and Construction Trades Council. And we have reached an agreement on all of the major terms. So excited to report back to you on that tonight. What I wanted to do was just walk you through some of the key terms of the agreement. We're not presenting this to you tonight for a vote because we're going to have the trades union go through their process for approval, similar as we do in our regular negotiations here in the district. They will complete their process, and then the document will be re-agendized for you for formal approval. So tonight is just for us to present it. If you have any questions, happy to take those tonight. Want to thank our partners at the trades and my counterpart, Lisa Dedemich, for her partnership and working with us on a few very difficult terms, and also Jaime Ortiz, who was the consultant that the district brought on as an expert to help with this matter from high performance learning environments. He wasn't able to be with me tonight for this presentation, so just know that the expert who on the actual application of these terms isn't here, so I may have to defer. If you have very specific questions, I will defer them till we have Jaime with us. But let me jump into some of the major terms of the agreement. Thank you. So one of the kind of most important terms of the agreement is the scope of the agreement. What is covered and what is not covered. So what is covered under this agreement is that it applies to all bond-funded projects that exceed a $1 million threshold. So it's all prime multi-trade contracts and all of the subcontracts that flow from that that are at $1 million or above. Those are all covered specifically by the Community Workforce Agreement. The goal of the Community Workforce Agreement is to have efficient construction projects completed for the community using and leaning on local labor that is skilled and that where we won't have work stoppages and other things. So that's the intended benefit of a community workforce agreement for the district and for the taxpayers that obviously supported the district's bond. It includes a local hire provision of 30% of total work hours performed by local residents, and we have a tiered process that I'll walk you through in a moment for determining local. And we have proposed a term. I have an asterisk on this because we are still working this part out, which is a term starting on January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2030, to allow the district to kind of set up the program that you need. And as you read in the agreement today, there are a lot of complex terms around the kind of the systems that support good use of a community workforce agreement. So one of the benefits of a community workforce agreement is to ensure that we do not have work stoppages, right? So it prevents parties from having strikes, walkouts, slowdowns, or things like that that could have a negative impact on major construction projects. And one of the ways that the agreement supports that is by having a set of terms that really help us prevent contractors and workers from having any labor strife to begin with. That's through the coordinator, through a lot of communication methods that are outlined in the agreement, and then through an expedited enforcement procedure through an arbitration provision that has a really expedited term, so that if you were facing some kind of critical labor dispute or questions between contractors and trades workers in the district, there is a process kind of pre-developed to be able to address that. And really, I think the strength of these agreements often sits in by having these terms really parsed out, you put in certain supports at the beginning, at the front end, that help us avoid having those kinds of disruptions or those conflicts to begin with. Dr. Hammett and I were on a call earlier today with HPLE, and, we're talking about like, well, what happens when and if, and he was saying like, really, if you have with some of these tools, you're really able to prevent any kind of those issues from even arising in the first place. Thank you. We could. So part of that is, of course, the grievance and arbitration procedure. You may note that there are lots of terms in the agreement that address this, and they are quite detailed. We've already listed out who the potential arbitrators could be, all of that. These are very similar terms to community workforce agreements in other districts and in other public agencies. They kind of match the form that you'll find in many places. And again, I think this kind of heavy work at the beginning is really intended to be able to prevent and support all of the entities that are going to be part of building your future projects. And so it has a 3-step process. Those are outlined in the agreement. So the way kind of the base of how a community workforce agreement works is that you have kind of the union recognition. So that means that contractors who are interested in building facilities and projects, modernizing facilities at the district through the bond, they will recognize the unions through this agreement, right? So this agreement provides that there are master labor agreements that each trade has, that is recognized as the labor agreement that provides for salary information and other information related. And so contractors who are already unionized, they often are already connected. They could be signatories to those master plans, or those who aren't have the ability through this agreement to basically recognize those trades workers as the unionized workers and then kind of build into the system through this agreement. So it allows someone who may not be a unionized shop to kind of connect in and become a unionized shop for the purpose of this agreement. It also has a procedure on like how the trade halls will refer workers and how that process works. That's a little detailed in the agreement as well. And then it also has a section where it allows any contractor to have up to 5 core employees who are not part of the unions. That might be someone that you have worked, your kind of key personnel that you've worked with for years previously that are really your kind of trusted folks. This agreement allows any contractor to have up to 5 of those kind of core employees that are part of that team that do not have to be part of the trade union. And so that's the process that's kind of developed under the core employees section of the agreement. So the tiers. So what this section is talking about is we one of the benefits to to communities through workforce agreements is a focus on local hires, right? But we also know that sometimes finding workers within our local community is challenging. And so you're trying to find that perfect balance of how do we make sure we're engaging our local community first. And so that's what this tiered process does. It requires that we first look at Fullerton residents within our district boundaries. And you'll see in the agreement, we've actually outlined all of the zip codes of Fullerton and veterans. There is a really strong support for veterans throughout the agreement that you can see in various areas. After that, then you move to tier 2. Tier 2 is Orange County, and we're looking kind of in a wider circle. After that, if you haven't fully staffed whatever project, whatever trade it is, then you move to tier 3. So that includes parts of Riverside County that are within 50 miles of Fullerton School District. And then the 4th tier is Los Angeles County, and it is our hope that within these 4 tiers, we're able to fully staff any district projects that are needed. And those would be considered kind of local, starting and requiring that we first look locally right in our own district. Wages and benefits. So this is one of the core areas of a workforce agreement. And it's kind of one of the areas that used to be super important when we negotiated these some years ago. It's a little easier to negotiate these now because the law and statutory provisions have kind of stepped in and really filled out a lot of this. So anybody working on a public construction project is required to have prevailing wages. This agreement connects back to the master labor agreements that the unions have, and so that will provide guidance to contractors around wages. It also provides for our procedures for compliance. This allows, right, construction can be a complicated area, and you'll often see lots of issues around, people want to get paid for the work. The organization wants to ensure that the work is quality work before it's all paid for, right? And so that process can be quite complex. And you've all seen change orders come with various construction matters. So what this does is sometimes subcontractors, when you don't have these types of agreements, sometimes the subcontractor doesn't get paid and they don't really have a process by which they can say, hey, I need to get paid now. And this agreement kind of helps to solve for some of that from the beginning. The agreement also has a jurisdictional section, and that really relates to when there are conflicts amongst the trades. And so that really doesn't have very much to do with us, other than these are our projects, so we hold that language for them here. And then the apprenticeship programs. So this work is really embedded in the agreement as a place to really grow the support of these trade areas that are needed. And so it does that in kind of 2 ways. Both it creates and celebrates the actual apprenticeship programs, as you saw probably towards the end of the agreement. But in the middle of the agreement, what it does is it allows for us to have up to 30% of each of our crafts workforce staffed by apprentices. And those are formal members of an apprenticeship program. So they are being supervised according to particular standards to ensure that the district is always getting a highly trained tradesperson working on our projects and that those apprentices are working very closely with them. And so there are terms around the way that apprenticeship program works. We also did include at the request, we can move to the next slide. At the request of the trades, we did include their drug and alcohol testing policy. This appears to be a policy that is agreed upon across all of the trades. And so it's pretty complex, as Dr. Hammett saw, and as you all probably saw, but that we have included at their request. And then this last slide is related to the last sections of the agreement. This is where we're really talking about strengthening the partnership between the trades unions and the district. So it includes support of our of our programs. So specifically, we've called out the support of the Nicholas Junior High Tiny Homes Project. The trades have agreed to provide mentorship and regular tradesmen in those classes upon our invitation. It was they noted for us, and we could appreciate that sometimes they'll make agreements to participate in various places and districts, but then they don't actually receive the information or the invitation. So that you'll see that there was an emphasis in our agreement around, upon your invitation, we will do this, right? And so that part's on us to do, to make sure that we're extending the invitation, to make sure that we're yeah, right. Like, right, we want to make sure it's planned. And so that'll include at various events that the district holds that will have their participation and support. And we hope to really grow that partnership to have, long-standing kind of support of the district, of our community, of our parents, and of the programs within the district. And then the MOU that you approved earlier tonight also is noted. The curriculum, the apprenticeship curriculum with the carpenters is also noted in Section 18 of this agreement as well. And that is the key. Those are the key terms.
What does it mean to support community schools grant event?
So we asked to include that. We have an event that happens here at the district, and so we've asked them to provide a table at that event.
More about recruiting parents?
Making communities, our community, aware of the various opportunities that can be provided through the trades.
Great.
And that would be our upcoming August 7th event, and then any other subsequent community schools events we hold throughout.
Well, we could definitely invite them. We should definitely invite to our August 7th event. This agreement will not be in place for the August 7th event.
But they're still invited.
Well, we should definitely extend an invitation. I'm quite sure they'd want to participate.
They were already invited to, I think, our last Champions event. They had a table as well. It was the Carpenters Union. They had a table there. Remember them? I know we're not voting on this today, and we're not really doing anything with it other than getting information. But to me, a community workforce agreement means local jobs, fair wages, and strong labor standards on our school construction projects, or just them being involved and making sure that our public dollars stay local and are supporting skilled families and skilled workers that are committed to safety and quality. And, as a school board member, I'm always for supporting our families and making sure that they are working local so that at the end of the day, they can make it to their children's dance recital or soccer game or anything. So if we can do anything to help and support on that, I'm all for it.
Anyone have questions?
Comment.
Tasha, she's here.
Yeah. Just to kind of clarify, does this agreement require us to pay higher wages than they would normally get from prevailing wage?
It could. It is possible because some of the wages will relate back to the master labor agreements that are within the trades. So I could find out more about when that could happen. But yeah, you will have some that will be paid higher than prevailing wage for sure.
So in other words, prevailing wage isn't prevailing here? Is that?
No, it is. That's the minimum.
Okay. So let me rephrase my question. This agreement wouldn't necessarily require us to mess with prevailing wage at all, right? The prevailing wage cannot.
This agreement has
which is set by state law.
Exactly, it's
right.
State law. So this reinforces that, it restates that, but it doesn't change what would have otherwise been required of you.
But what you're saying is that if there's a master carpenter, that person would most likely be paid way higher than prevailing wage because of their experience and their skill. And that might be who's on one of the projects that that they are just there.
Yeah, they'd
have to pay higher.
I would assume that's true. I don't actually have the expertise to be certain, though. I can get that information for you.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question on that. But even though we are talking about community workforce agreement, they would still have to go in onto the bidding process,
Yes.
any job. So
Correct.
it just depends on who we want, who we as a district want to hire. We just want to make sure that they are an option. And we don't just have one company doing all the bidding and doing all the work for the district. We want to make sure
No,
that,
I don't think
No?
that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I may have misunderstood your question.
So,
So yes, every project that the district has must be bid
yeah.
by law. This does not impact your bidding. What this does, though, it says, so this agreement will become part of any bid you put
In
out
bidding.
after January 1st that meets the threshold requirement. So anybody who wants to participate as a contractor on a Fullerton project will have to agree to the terms that are within this agreement to do so.
Yes. And my next question is, if I'm reading this right, this doesn't require you to be in a union to work on projects under this agreement, right?
Well, if so we have an exception for 5 people, right? And then, but even for those 5 and for anyone else, the contractor must contribute by paying the fringe benefit requirement of the trade union.
Yeah.
And so you basically join, in essence, you join, any worker would basically join the union to be able to work on a Fullerton School District project that meets these threshold requirements. And the only kind of exception to that would be if the union halls weren't able to provide enough staffing for a district project. If that were to occur, then, and kind of only then, would you have the non-union tradesmen work on a district project.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 17, 8.8. It says employees are not required to become or remain union members or pay dues as a fees of condition of work performing project work under the CWA. Am I misinterpreting that?
So the point that I'm trying to highlight is that while the worker doesn't become unionized,
Right.
the contractor must pay the union benefit.
Right. Yeah. So under this framework, right? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, it sounds to me that if this passes, is that this establishes a general framework for projects.
Yes.
But if there are people out there who are afraid that I'm not a union shop, that means I can no longer bid on these. That's not necessarily true.
Oh no,
You
non
still
shops
right.
absolutely bid.
Right.
They just have to comply with the terms.
Right. Okay.
They would have to join the union in order to.
They're not joining.
Not joining the union.
But they have to pay the union's fringe benefit requirement.
And would they benefit from that? So if if a contractor is paying into the fringe benefits, that means their workers then receive like healthcare, disability insurance, things like that while they're doing the work?
That would be my assumption. What I don't know is like if you, I don't know if you're already paying benefits to your employees and you double, I don't know.
You might have to double pay.
That I don't know.
My understanding I'm not an expert either, but I know sometimes folks will be independent contractors. So they might be paid a higher wage, but then have to also pay for their own insurance and coverage and things like that. So this kind of eliminates that by saying we're just paying directly to the union, which will then provide the benefits as needed. Maybe. Hopefully that's correct.
I want to say very broadly, Ms. Sani, this is now, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that we've heard from you. We also have experienced advice and counsel from other attorneys from your firm. I'm just very grateful for the work product that I've seen, and there's a level of trust that I have. I'm very grateful for your opinions and for working through this agreement on our behalf. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
What does BTC stand for?
Building Trades Council.
Can you answer that? There's a description of a community workforce coordinator, and it talks about, there was one point where it said that the district has to monitor wages. Can you talk about what that role would be and who might play that job?
Yes. So typically, what districts do is you hire a consultant to serve in that role. And there is kind of a pool of kind of trusted folks that are trusted both by districts and by the trades that kind of can provide that consulting to the district. Um, uh, and we will work to get you some solid recommendations, in that area. And that person really can help to avoid kind of any disputes. They will be part of your initial meetings. They help to keep the information flowing. They do those kinds of things. And then on the compliance element, that's something that they can help with and district staff both.
And I was on the call earlier today. Both Natasha and I were with Jaime, and we were asking those questions. And he said you could eventually train a staff member in your district to do it, but the learning curve would be high. And for the hours invested, you would be better off to hire someone who's has expertise in that area, who could come in and help you, because it's not really a full-time job, and especially for someone who has the expertise in it. I also asked the question because as I looked at the agreement, there's many articles on conflict, grievances, resolving those things, and I really wanted to know. I kind of viewed it, and jokingly said it's kind of like signing the prenuptial agreement. It's kind of like you're anticipating that there's going to be problems in this, in this agreement. And he said in his years of doing this, he has only had to really enlist, excuse me, those pieces of the articles and the agreement one time. Because if you hire the right coordinator and you really work on the relationship up front and the way the process works, then you don't get to the point of having to put in place those grievance procedures, the arbitrators, the mediators, etc.
So that coordinator is an additional expense coming with this contract, coming with this agreement.
Can be an expense or an investment.
5 years is the contract date, like initially going, was it a 5-year?
4 years.
Oh, 4 years. I thought it was
Is it
5.
It's January to December 31st, so I think it adds up to 5 years.
26 to 30, though.
So the start of 26.
Start of
26, 27, 28, 29,
30. Yeah,
30.
5. And that term is still being discussed. So we might see a revision there. We haven't finished talking about that with the team.
We don't even have our employees have a 5-year contract. I mean, I'm a little concerned about a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Is 5 year standard?
I have seen 5 years in a number of other agreements. I think the goal is often that you want it to run through the project, right? So that you have like kind of the same terms from the beginning to the end of the projects that you started underneath that measure.
Most projects don't take 5 years.
Most, hopefully, no. You're right. Meaning
that our
not going to start.
Gyms are, so our, right now we have Nicholas and Parks gyms being worked on. From what I'm understanding, the construction company that is doing that right now is a union shop. Are those two projects grandfathered, or do they have, they're over $1 million? Is it something that, are they grandfathered in, or are they going to have to stop and go into this work? I mean, how does
No, projects that are already happening are already happening. Those this is about future projects that meet these conditions.
Projects.
And so it would be any project, any bond project,
Any unfunded project
over $1 million that is more than one trade.
Yes.
So if it's a renovation of a school not, so if it's a renovation, I'm just trying to think out loud because I'm really trying to understand this. So if it's a renovation of a school and it's a project over $1 million, but it's just plumbing, would that be covered?
It would depend.
Yeah, if it wasn't multi-trade, right. So if it's just one single trade and it's over $1 million, then it wouldn't fall under this agreement. However, if it involves two or more trades, then, so let's say you had plumbing and electrical, and it was over $1 million, and it was funded by the bond. So it's not funded by our restricted and routine maintenance or any of the other funds. Then if it's by the bond, more than 2 trades, it would be covered under the agreement.
I have a question. It's industry related, so I don't know if you know the answer, but the goal is that we're going to have at least 30% of the workforce from the local community, which I think is great. Our community's paying taxes, they voted for this bond, and we're hoping to keep that money local. But is that typical? Like, for instance, in our projects that we're doing right now that are over $1 million, do we usually have about 30% of workers that are local, as in Fullerton, or is that pretty unique to be able to bring in that many local folks?
I don't know how your current projects are staffed, so I couldn't speak to that. I do know that I see this number of 30%, 35% frequently in workforce agreements. And I know that 2 districts that I serve in Ventura County have been able to exceed those numbers pretty well, pretty successfully. Now, I don't know the difference in the labor that's available to us locally here versus in Ventura County. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that's nice to have that safeguard, because as we think about both what's been happening in construction, I mean, just the fact that so many folks who work in construction may be concerned for their jobs. And then with the fires in Los Angeles and Altadena, I think that the demand for construction workers is going to increase greatly in the next few years. So it is important to have reliable labor, and local labor is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to know more about whether that's typical, or if we're getting a better return for that.
Yeah, so I think because we have to discuss everything openly, right? Can't talk about this on the side. I'll offer my closing thoughts. Is that response to the localness? Yeah, I doubt that the Fullerton zip code specifically can support entire projects, but I'm glad that provision is there to keep as much of that work from Fullerton families in Fullerton working on Fullerton projects. And then if not Fullerton, then we have veterans. And as some guy in the Air Force right now, I appreciate that we're looking after veterans who may struggle to find meaningful employment outside of the military. So I'm glad that framework is there, even if it is aspirational, because it helps a lot of families. Where I stand on this is I don't know about next actions, but I'm supportive of it because of that. Supportive of things like this because it supports local families and drug tests workers that are going to work on the integrity of the structure of our schools, which is important. There's a provision in here I saw that you mentioned, right? Mrs. Sugarman's Fullerton Education Foundation Tiny Homes Initiative, that this would support that, specifically calling that out. But I think for me, most importantly, you mentioned the 5-year term. This provides stability. If we residents of Fullerton have recently discovered how disruptive a strike can be with trash services, and that was 2 days. When all of our projects are carefully timed to happen before school opens or in between when kids are in and out of school, timing is everything to keep a project under budget, and investing in a structure that provides stability over the medium term of 5 years, I think is only good for the district. So again, I don't know what next actions are, but want to discuss my intentions openly that I am supportive.
Thank you.
Anything else for Natasha while she's here? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for answering our questions and for the presentation. And Anna did send us this presentation, correct? Yeah.
And
have it.
just to get back to next steps, our point would be to have the trade council be able to take this to their side, make sure they get approval, just like we do in contract negotiations with our teachers unions or our classified union, that they would bring back that document to us, and then we would be able to get that document to you as a board and bring it back for our next board meeting for the board members to consider for approval of that.
I do have one more question. I remember in learning more about trades that not only can they have preferences for local folks and veterans, but we can set other parameters as well. Were there any others that were discussed? I remember specifically hearing about women in the trades, as well as even formerly incarcerated or system-involved adults, which I was very glad to see that there's very explicitly all workers are required to comply with criminal background check certification to make sure that they're safe to be around children.
Mhm.
We don't want to put our kids at risk by folks that might be on our campuses, but were any of those other parameters discussed to give other folks opportunities for meaningful work?
They were not discussed explicitly in this negotiation. There are other categories that the district can seek to include in our, in our next round if that's the direction of the board. But this one, we were really focused on like the Fullerton residents and veterans. But as we had discussed previously in our study session, there are a number of categories. It could be specific to graduates, to women, to, formerly incarcerated, formerly homeless, or unhoused, right? Like there are many ways that you can get very, very specific. It does, what I understand is it does sometimes add additional challenge, but it's absolutely possible.
Well, and I know, I mean, if that's the intent of the union is to include and educate and be employing those folks, it's automatically that's who we're hiring in a sense, but we could maybe set priors. I don't know if the board would be interested in knowing more about kind of those lists of.
While I was campaigning, I did a little bit of research, and I know the unions, the labor workforce unions, I was very surprised to find out that they're very inclusive. I know they have a lot of women that have high-ranking positions within the labor, and I'm talking about like holding a sledgehammer and being out on the field. So I have a feeling that it's pretty inclusive. I mean, if you, like Natasha said, if you want to get very detailed, it gets harder because then now we're looking for a specific demographic of people that we want to hire. But we can ask that question definitely. I don't see a problem with it.
I would think that families that have kids in our district would overlap with the zip codes, right? That's the kind of the primary way of ensuring that. We don't have as many kids commuting from outside of our zip codes, but I think graduates would be great too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Simple is best.
Thank you, Natasha. I know that you'll probably want to get on the road, so thanks for being with us.
All right, be safe. Okay, we're moving on to our revised board policy 0515, equity. We posted a revised board policy, and then since we posted, there's been additional revisions. So I think we now have to go back to maybe putting up the revised.
Yes, and I've asked Anna to provide us with the most recent revised version that I sent out. So what we do is we ask the board members to submit revisions, and then we put those out as suggestions for everyone to look at. And now the red were the revisions that were originally submitted, and then there are green revisions, which were the ones that were most recently submitted. And then there is the revision to the most recent revision is a strike through in one of the green, in the green revision.
I have one question for just process. Because we posted one, right? We had one posted for our being transparent to our community. If we are now going to look at a revised of the one we posted, do we have to amend our motion? I mean, so do we have to do anything to change it prior to bringing this up? Just, I don't want to technicality.
The only thing that we would need to do is just, as if we were amending it here in the meeting, just make it clear that we're amending what was posted, and these were the amendments that we would be making.
All right, thank you. So I just needed to make sure we were process-wise. Okay. So the red was what we posted. So when we got it first, it had the red. And then today we have the green. And then we have.
To explain the colors, the black was what was in place. The black text is what was in place for the first read. And then for the posting, the original posting of this board agenda are the items in red. And those were posted and presented to the public with the recommended or the suggested edits. And then the green are changes that have been added or recommended, suggested since this was posted.
So I think that does anyone want to speak first? I mean, I speak.
Well, I think this is not the last one that you sent out, right? It is? Okay, 'cause I have some small edits on this one.
Okay, so sorry, you guys. So if we look at, so everyone has this up here.
Yeah,
Your computer has it. Okay, I didn't pull this one up.
and I underlined
I
it.
think the first thing is the first thing is do we have a motion to approve it as it is listed here?
No, I have edits, so I do not motion to approve as is.
Right, so we have more edits. Okay, do you want to start with your edits?
Yeah, so on, oh my God, I don't even know how to say it, which line. Starting in the line with the green, I guess you could say. Right after diversity, I would like to say or change and add an understanding, so an understanding of the historical impacts of discrimination and injustice, comma, and then cross off as well as the, and put and an acknowledgement that educational excellence requires a commitment to equity and the opportunity provided to students for the resulting outcomes. And then in the following sentence, FSD seeks to achieve educational equity not through, but by ensuring every child receives what they need to develop their full and unique potential and thrive. So they're very small edits. Again, they're suggestions, but so it would read of the inherent value of diversity, comma, an understanding of the historical impact of discrimination and injustice, and an acknowledgement that educational excellence requires a commitment to equity in the opportunities provided to students and the resulting outcomes. An understanding, take off as well as the, and it would be comma, and an acknowledgement.
So can I read the entire sentence beginning with addressing just to make sure that I clearly have the changings, the suggestions the changes you are suggesting? So addressing the needs of all learners requires recognition of the inherent value of diversity and understanding of the historical impact of discrimination and injustice.
Not and, an.
And I have an on there, and understanding of the historical impact of discrimination and justice, and an acknowledgement that educational excellence requires a commitment to equity in the opportunities provided to students and the resulting outcomes.
Yes. Like it's not changing the context, it's just changing the way it's written.
I personally feel like our board policy, we get very wordy. And to me, it kind of loses what we're really trying to do. And I really try to stay as objective and not subjective when we're doing board policies. So if I were reading that and I was reading understanding the historical impact of discrimination and injustice, even though I could believe that's true, is that subjective? Is that, when we're talking about disabilities, we're talking about all students we're protecting, providing equitable situations. I'm looking at a lot of words, and I'm trying to be, have less is better.
Also,
I don't know.
I'm the one that suggested, I think, all the other additions.
Yeah, I didn't
And
take off any
the-
of the green. I just
yeah, that's fine.
added
The
the
reason I'll tell you why my thinking process is when I was reading it, it said addressing the needs of, and it said most marginalized learners requires recognition of the inherent value of diversity. Absolutely, diversity we see as something good.
Mhm.
But also, when you address the barriers to education, it's about looking at the negative impact of discrimination and injustice. And I think it's both and, right? We need to celebrate the diversity that our students and our staff bring, but also say, and there have been times when girls couldn't vote, and there have been times when we had segregation, and that still has a legacy today. And so it's both, I think, understanding the historical, and we don't have to keep the word historical, I'm not wedded to that, but understanding the impact both historically and today of discrimination, because this still happens, right? And seeing how when there are barriers to education because of discrimination and inequity, that's what we're addressing through this approach of equity. So to me, it was about saying, yes, we celebrate the diversity they bring, but we also have to acknowledge the barriers in order to move beyond them.
Mhm.
So to me, I thought it was a missing piece. And then the other green that I added was the missing piece of that. I realized we didn't ever actually define equity. Right. So I kind of snuck it in a way that I didn't say the definition of equity is, but acknowledging that we are committed to ensuring every child receives exactly what they need to reach their full potential is how we define equity in our district. And I think generally within the education community. So that was my thought process of those things.
And I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I just had those very minimal
And I
changes.
think reducing historical because it's not limited to that. I think it's understanding the scope of both what has happened and what continues and the legacy of what has happened.
I'm okay with leaving it though.
And there was no other green past that paragraph, correct? Like the rest was just the red.
The rest was just red, but I also have very small, again, changes.
Where at?
If we go to the second page, on number 3, I know you were talking about repetitive, Bev, but I see at the very end of that sentence there, during the school day and outside of school hours, can we just, instead of saying school twice, can we say both during and outside of school hours? So we don't say during the school day and outside of school hours. So do we want to be specific there and say school twice or both during and outside of school hours?
Sure. During.
Both during and outside of school hours.
And then strike the school day.
Outside of, not thus, and outside of school hours.
Of school hours. Both during and outside of school.
Both during and outside of
So
school hours.
strike all of that. Strike.
So during and outside school hours, right? All this.
Do we want to say of school hours and outside of school hours? Because that's what it said on the.
Outside of the school.
I just wrote and outside of school hours.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
No, that one is.
Middle. So your strikes are the little words.
So outside, chat right out after outside, put of school hours.
Both during.
Yeah,
Outside
of school hours. And then number 5, if we can make perspective plural, it needs an S so that it's diverse experiences and perspectives. Yeah.
Missing
So
an S.
missing an S. And then on number 6, at the very end of the sentence, and where it says and continuous learning and growth opportunities, or FSD? Can we do and promote continuous learning and growth opportunities within FSD, not for FSD? Sorry. Promote continuous learning and growth opportunities within FSD, not for FSD. I think those are my only, they're small. But that's it.
Or students?
I think it's first, I would say for staff, and that we're promoting continuous learning and opportunities for our staff as well to move towards more equity. I don't think it's limited to students.
Those are my only changes.
Anybody else have changes? Everybody okay with the changes that have been made? Because this is a second reading, so we're voting on it. Okay. All right, so we are. Do we have a motion to approve the amended revised board policy 0415? Equity.
So moved.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
Second. Any other comments or changes?
I think this is a policy that reflects our values and the way that we've been operating for a long time as a district. But with every policy comes administrative regulations, accountability, plans to enact it. So I'm excited to see how this might add some just strength to the work that we're doing. And this is our version of backing up our staff as we do this work.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that hard work, you guys. We are approving or ratifying a new contract with Ware Disposal for solid waste management and recycling from RFP 2425-15. So do I have a motion to approve or ratify the new contract?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? I think we've all gotten a lot of information on it and understand it. All right.
I did have a couple questions, but I don't know if we have anybody to answer them. Mike, are you going to be able to respond? Okay, I was just wondering the price. Sometimes when you start a new contract, you sort of have an introductory special price. Is this, do we have any concerns about it raising in the future? Because it's a lot less than what we were paying. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, so prices remain same on that for 5 years, and it was a great opportunity for us to, Fullerton Joint was having the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
Part of being a municipality, we have every legal right to go out and do an RFP to find resources out there, so at a sit-down meeting, companies came in, this is what our needs are, Fullerton Joint as well as us, to really gap some great opportunities and cost-saving prices between the two districts. So it really made us look like a unified district by our volume, their volume, and go from there.
Great. So I wanted to ask, did we have recycling with our former waste service provider?
Our current one?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so we had no recycling at all of our schools. What kind of recycling will we have with Ware Disposal?
It's really going to be opportunity of how we're going to implement it if we go do it at a school site.
Mm-hmm.
So at each facility, there's a Murphy that actually does do the recycling at the plant based on the state of California requirements on recycling. So internally, if we did do recycling, it would have to be no outside food, have to be clean, paper, and then from there it could just really look at the logistical side of it. One thing to add to it is we will be in compliance with organic waste
Mm-hmm.
at food service, which is a Senate bill that did pass, I think about a year ago. So that's one new opportunity for Victor and his team to have organic waste recycling on that we haven't had before, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited because it sounds like we have the opportunity to at least recycle paper. All of our classrooms, a lot of kids produce a lot of paper, and so we'll be able to capture that and recycle that going forward. And then the composting means that we can recover a lot of organic materials. It looked like they also have edible food recovery too.
It's like a la carte menu how I set up the RFP. So it's really pick and choose of what opportunities you'd like to do and go from there. So
So are we deciding that right now, or
as far as what?
like when you said it's a la carte, what does that? What do you mean? Who makes that decision?
It's a la carte. We already made the decision based on the pricing of the 3-yard bins that are out there. So there's really nothing right now that we're moving forward to. Recycling would be one opportunity, but there's a lot of logistics that go through that. So it would just be something we have to look into.
So you're saying we're not doing it right now? I'm sorry.
Recycling or no? I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question.
Okay, going forward with the new contract with Ware Waste Products or Waste Company, are we going to be recycling paper at all of our school sites?
The paper physically at our sites, no, but when it gets to the Murphy at their dispensary, it does get recycled. They're 100%, yes.
Great. And food.
Organic waste is new, so that's exciting. So that will be recycled.
Okay. They will
Starting with this new school year.
starting with the new school year.
Yes.
Yes.
They'll be taking
Okay.
all of the organic waste and recycling that to be in compliance with the new state law.
Great.
Only at nutrition services, not at each school site.
Starting at nutrition services, we will have to look to see how it's going to be implemented at each school site.
It will take some training, and especially because it's going to be requiring students to be able to separate and put food waste alone
In a certain container. Exactly, Chad. So there's still logistics that go along with it. The sky's the limit for us. We have opportunities there, but we just can't run right at it. We need to have some communication, logistics of what that's going to look like, work with our Ware disposal company, and move forward in that direction if that's what we do.
Good news about this contract is, Mike, in the RFP included that all these components were there. So the idea is we can add more.
Okay.
We can bring along student staff to make it happen. We just know that anytime we make change, we're moving 12,000 bodies, anywhere from 4 years old till 12 years old, to try to get them to come along with us. So that's
correct.
That's always our challenge. And as you know from just try to move a couple in your home, it's a challenge as well sometimes. So
I think we have a lot of support from our kids
Yeah.
that want to do this work. So I'm excited for that, and I would advise that we do move in that direction. And I mean, great that we have a contract that is not only a lot less expensive to our district, but also has these opportunities which we didn't have before. So I would say let's keep going in that direction.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. That's awesome.
I'm sorry, I had one more question. This is a 5-year contract, you said?
Yes, sir.
Is that standard?
So you look at contracts, when I look at them, like doing 1 year, your pricing would probably be escalated because the company's not going to know what's going to happen to year 2 or 3. 3-year contract, you can look at that and see what the prices were on that area. 5-year contracts for this, it's a long-term relationship we want to have with the company. And so typically it would be a standard agreement with that for a long-term 5-year agreement.
Stability.
Stability.
So, so there was a motion and there was a
Yeah,
second.
I moved it.
Our discussion.
Cool.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Our 45-day, but ready? Thank you for being here. Thank you. Where's that Rob when you need him, huh?
Really could have.
Hey, Damien. Go.
Thank you. Good evening, President Berryman, Board of Trustees, Dr. Hammett, Executive Cabinet members, staff, and community members. We are here tonight. I'm here tonight to present on the 45-day budget revision. So this is pretty much a legal requirement. Please go to the next slide. So the legal requirement under Ed Code 42127 is to present to the board no later than 45 days after the Budget Act is approved if there's any revisions to revenue or expenditures that are made to the budget, and make it available to the public as well. If we could please go to the next slide. And there were just a couple of changes that we made. And the impact on the final budget act, based on the final budget act, is that our unrestricted revenue increased by $1.171 million. And our restricted revenue, and this is all general fund, well, the restricted revenue, it's a combination of general fund and child development fund, and I'll explain that. So the net increase in restricted revenue is just roughly over $4 million. So all in all, there's an additional there's an increase in revenue of $5.2 million. And there are a couple of components that contributed to the increase. So as far as the unrestricted part of the increase in the revenue, was the fact that when we budgeted in June, we budgeted based on a more conservative amount of money because the budget had not been approved and we were not sure if we were going to receive additional funding for TK. So we budgeted $3,100, $3,148 per pupil in TK. Once the budget was approved, we received an additional $2,397, and that amount is the $1.7 million in unrestricted additional 1.171 1 million. I'm sorry, 1 million. Let me go back to that slide. 1,171,000 in unrestricted revenue, and that is so additional TK revenue. The part of the restricted revenue, if we can go to the next slide, please. The increase has to do with the ELOP increase. So when we budgeted again a more conservative amount. We didn't know if this was going to pass. So what happened is when the budget was enacted, school districts like Fullerton School District, that UPP requirement changed from 75% to 55%. So any districts with UPP over 55%, and we're sitting right at like 61%, we needed to provide access to all students TK through 6 after school program ELOP access. So what happened is that our revenue increased per pupil from $1,579 to $2,750. So that additional increase in revenue in the restricted side has to do with this increase in ELOP funding. So in the general fund, and if we can move to the next slide, please, Anna. We're able to see that there's an increase in the unrestricted revenue. So these are items that I needed to present to the county to justify the changes that we're making to the budget. So the LCFF part is a TK part, and this is unrestricted net revenue. So this is the only change that we made to unrestricted. And if we go to the next slide, please. The increase in ELOP funding is $5.9 million. And I had previously said that the increase was just a little bit over $4 million. The reason for that net increase is, if we go to the next slide, Anna, is that there's a decrease in the lab under child development. So what the lab is an after-school program. It's a fee-based after-school program that we ran up until the new budget was enacted, and now that we have to provide this free after-school program from TK through 6th grade, we're only able to operate the fee-based program at Parks Junior High. So what the amount that we budgeted at budget was $2 million to run the program, and that's both revenue and expenditures. And what we found out after the budget was enacted with the new ELOP funding is that the only money that we're going to generate from parks was roughly $145,000. So that's the reason for the decrease in the child development fund. So we decreased both revenue and expenditures in child development by that amount, and the funding is being picked up by ELOP. So in reality, that net is at $4 million. So that's the reason of the decrease in child development fund. But all in all, being that we decrease both revenue and expenditures and restrict in the child development fund and in Fund 1 restricted, there was no change net effect in pretty much the surplus that we already had in child development. So it really doesn't create an additional deficit in either child development or Fund 1, general fund unrestricted. So for the last slide, so what are the next steps? Again, these changes, and there were only two major changes, ELOP and TK. Before making the changes, we had to pretty much make the change, provide it to the county, get approval from the county, and make sure that everything was okay. We had to kind of like reopen the budget for them to allow us to make the changes. So the next steps are pretty much approving for the board members is going to be to approve the unaudited actuals, which is something that we're working on right now. We're closing fiscal year 24-25. So right now we're in the middle of closing the fiscal year, and we're going to bring this to you for approval in September. And then after that, you're gonna keep seeing additional changes to the budget. So we're gonna come and present to you for the first interim report in December, and this is gonna be the changes that we're gonna make to the budget as of October 31st, 2025. So we're gonna keep you updated, and again, these are the next two steps. Let me know if you have any questions, please, on any of this information. I know I gave you a lot of information.
Can you walk me through the parks being the only site with the lab? Because basically, if I understand correctly, based off of unduplicated counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a requirement that we provide it TK through 6.
Right.
How did that shake out to only parks? Like, what about other K through 8?
So our site at Nicholas and Ladera Vista are funded through ACES, through the ACES program. So we receive additional funding from ACES. So that's where the funding comes from. So only the after-school program, the lab operates, the fee-based program operates at parks.
But what about like Beechwood, Whistler, they're beyond 6th grade?
My understanding is that there's no demand for that program at Beechwood and Whistler. Is that correct, Chief?
Yeah, we usually do a survey or ask if there's an interest. So there has not been, but we would probably do another survey or check up since the change. But Whistler and Beechwood did end up being a fee-based after-school program for the junior high only, because the funding for junior high is not covered under ELOP. So ELOP is TK through 6. And so Parks, being the only junior high, is the only fee-based now program left since the revise. And if Whistler or Beechwood middle school students or junior high student age students ask for, or parents have asked with a certain number threshold, then we could look at opening. So this last year was our first year we started Parks, since that was a need or a question that came up. Whistler and Beechwood's junior high being much smaller in terms of numbers. There hasn't been enough to be able to create one as a fee-based portion, but that could be another revisit survey, for example, asking what the need are. No one has ever come saying that there was a need yet.
And what's the threshold for when you go, oh, this is enough interest?
Yeah, so
probably no bright line rule, but roughly.
You're right. So like Parks, we're running at a deficit right now. So last year, this being the first one, average about 30 to 40 students would equate to us being able to staff it and be able to sustain it at a bare minimum. So last year, Parks starting was about 30, but really average showing up was about 25. So we would want to get to about 35 to really 40 to really kind of be able to sustain that program there.
Okay.
So just to put a scale, Fissler is roughly around, I think, 200 students or less in the mid-junior high level. So we would need at least about 40 junior high parents asking for that program to sustain it at a sustainable level financially.
Couldn't they be folded into the K through 6 even if the funding stream is differently?
The only way we'd be able to do that is after we serviced everything we need to do for all the other TK6 programs at all the sites. So last year, for example, we were at a under threshold, so we would have to only service UPP population, and then leftover, we kind of discreetly or freely, you'd be able to use it that way. As the compliance gets stricter, or more strict, I'm sorry, strict, I'm not even using good grammar, more strict, the rules keep changing where we're not able to be more flexible and applying it to other areas. So we're kind of getting more constrained. And so
So you're saying even if you hired a staff person and they could handle 2 or 3 more junior hires under their care because the money's coming from the ELAP and it's only for K through 6, you couldn't just throw in an extra 5th, 7th graders. That wouldn't be acceptable.
So currently at the junior high, it would only be funded through our fee base. So there wouldn't be any ELAP dollars covering a staff member in the junior high level.
I'm talking at K8.
Oh, and a K8, yeah. So when they audit that, they would be looking at what students are attached to your staff member. And therefore, if you just threw in a junior high student on roster, it would be like, oh, you're covering that.
You're admirably answering a lot of ELAP-based questions. I do have a financial one. You mentioned it's tied to the ELAP, but you said them about $144,000 at the park site. What is that?
That's the amount of revenue that we generate for the students, for the students that have signed up for the fee-based program at parks.
Oh, so it's what you collect from the parks parents is $144,000.
For them to run the program within 1 year, it would be about $144,000 operating budget for our site supervisor, our aide, and materials and costs to help make sure that there's safety and enrichment for the students in that.
In other words, you're only spending what you're collecting from the parents.
So last year, when we had fee-based, we were able to cover and provide a little bit more when we had a fee base across our 9 elementary schools. So our lab name will stay. It's just that now the 9 elementary lab schools will be free because the ELAP covers that. But the junior high will not. So now we're going to be a little more cuffed because now our fee-based can only really be collected with parks and be applied to parks. So that's the only income that comes from that. So earlier this year when we kind of had that discussion, you asked, so the fee base was able to support each other. So like Sunset Lane fee base could support, and if there was a need at parks, could kind of collaborate because they were the students from there. But now Sunset Lane is free because of ELAP. Parks' revenue only can cover parks.
Our budget will be very constrained as far as we have to live within that budget and find a way to make that work.
And I just want to mention that one of the key elements of ELAP is that we've been provided a grace period of 1 year. So the state recognizing that it's going to take time for us expand the program and get to that point. We are going to be funded as a Rate 1 school, but we're going to be audited this year as a Rate 2 school. So it's going to be the same audit procedures as a Rate 2, but the state is giving us this grace, this 1 year grace period for us to get to that point.
So maybe more Jason question, as we are having these formerly lab schools, the K through 6 schools that are now free rather than fee-based, do you anticipate a greater demand for enrollment?
1,000%, but because of that grace period, it allows us to ramp up and prepare, which we didn't get. We have contingency plans ready to go, and now we know what we were getting. So our plan is up to by December to really ramp up our abilities and capabilities and capacities with partnerships and hopefully more people clamoring to get jobs in our district with the funding that we have increased with, and then be able to take on more students starting January so that we can ramp up so that by the following school year, when we are held liable or compliant, we can have hopefully no ability to have weights or whatnot. And so our lab schools definitely should have a higher interest. And it's going to be a lot of campaigning and information because a lot of times free equates to I'll do it, but that doesn't help us in planning of what the real need is. So we're working on training staff, communicating with families and communities, even our own staff, because they don't know per se what the new rules are. So we're going to have to use this next 6 months to really ramp that up. And then the grace period will allow us to not be held liable, but use the same compliance we had this past year and then be ready for the following year. So the dollars seem like a lot, but we are really more of a closer to a 55% district than the 75% district. So we're getting monies, but to cover more proportion of students that were not included before. So I don't know if that makes sense, but the idea is we're getting more money, but not equivalent to the number of students we're going to be consider looking at and what we're going to add. So we'll evaluate, look, and really prioritize, of course, our staff, our quality, safety, as all these expansions happen. So yes, we're anticipating, at least within my lab schools, definitely an increase of interest. And then how are we going to look at that and break it down to say what is the real need of how many students can we start with and then keep scaling.
So on day one, it will be free for all of our K through 6 schools. There won't be a gradual process.
Yes, at the current plan, we are making sure we message to all our families in the lab schools that moving forward, but day one, there will be no more fees for the lab schools. So that's really good, but we're not going to be able to add more yet until as we start ramping up to know what the numbers are and our staffing partnerships, et cetera.
So is there priority for the students that were in the lab schools last year?
At the current plan, it is to keep those who have been enrolled.
Yes.
And then to notify those students and make sure we keep that as we move forward and then start looking at prioritizing probably those who have the greatest need, which is usually the UPP population, and then keep scaling and kind of prioritizing as we move forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
So you've already sent out applications for this current school year at the end of last year, at this upcoming year, or last year. These are the only students that you're going to keep at this moment as you analyze process.
Right. So our staffing is up to par with the numbers that we've had.
Yeah.
And then we have our HR department does a great job of trying to recruit. And then we've also had an RFP process to bring in other interested partners with knowing this would happen. So now we know a bank of or a list of who to draw upon so that we can now move forward with it. And again,
You do have a wait list right now.
We've done a really big effort to remove a wait list completely. So in general, we had a very little or small or no, if not at all, a wait list in general. But there will probably be a formation of one as they know the information gets out. So we won't be liable for that yet, but we will be targeting those as our goals and numbers to scale and move forward. So that would be helpful, at least.
Other piece that we'll need to work on as well is the attendance piece. So that, if we have students who maybe only attend 1 or 2 days a week for a limited number of hours, yet we have other students who need the program 5 days a week for more hours per day, we'll need to work on a process for that as well to ensure that we are able to service the maximum number of students who need the services for the maximum number of hours.
And that is usually our biggest challenge, which is a family that needs it every day versus some that says, I'll do it because I want the enrichment opportunities, which is good, but it's not the need it's really meant for. So we're trying to accommodate all and all the needs that are presented, but we'll definitely have to prioritize what's most important at the time and moving forward.
I just one more budget question to be sure that now that we're moving, the state has allocated this UPP of the $2,750. Is that per student who is counted as UPP, or every student that takes advantage of the program?
It's for students that are TK through 6.
TK through 6,
right?
Total enrollment
Per pupil.
So because our district is more than 55%, every single child, no matter what their economic family income, we have the budget for $2,750 per student.
Yes.
That's why we can offer it to everybody. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing no other questions, do I have a motion to approve the 45-day budget revision?
I'll move it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments? Thank you so much for all of your hard work and doing this solo this evening.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're good. All right, E, we're approving the purchase of 8 zero-emission electric school buses and charging infrastructure under the zero-emission school bus and infrastructure project. Do I have a motion to approve this item?
I'll make the motion, but did somebody intentionally make it item E? That's pretty funny. Electric.
E,
Just wondering.
late.
I'll second.
It was Anna.
Been moved and seconded. Thank you again for all of the information and answering questions on this one too. So we appreciate it. All right. Any other comments?
I'll just share with the public. I had asked the question like, how much money are we getting, and what happens to the old buses and things like that. And what Dr. Coughlin shared with all of us was that 2 of the buses that we're going to be replacing had over 20,000 miles. So we're let me back up. We're 200.
200,000 miles. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe someone wants to do this report instead, but we're buying 8 new electric buses at a very low cost of, what is it, guys?
70.
No, the big ones are 75,000. The smaller ones, I believe, were 30.
Yeah. So we are
Correct.
But total, we are spending how much? 350. Less than
$328,967.
Yes.
And we're retiring 2 large diesel buses with over 200,000 miles on them from 1998 when I graduated from high school. And the remaining 6 buses of over 400,000 miles on each of them that were purchased in 2001. So we're taking these buses off the road, which means less pollution, less asthma for our kids in our community. And instead, we're getting very good deals through this grant that our staff applied for. So thank you.
Just add one thing. This obviously shows the huge dedication for our mechanics. That's a lot of support for those buses to keep them safe.
Yes.
So John and the team, Mike, so that's just a big thing I wanted just to shout out for them because it takes a lot. So
We're going to have to learn how to work on electric buses.
a lot of in-services coming up on that and good to go.
Right. All those in, did we have a motion? Did we do a motion? Yeah, we did a motion. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. Passes. All right. Now we have our committee on assignment recommendations.
Yes. So every year we bring forth committee on assignments. We have teachers, especially because we offer a large number of electives. And we have some unique school settings, for example, K-8s, where we don't have large numbers of staff members with varied credentials. So the items we're bringing tonight are courses that teachers are teaching, which provide our students with electives and learning opportunities. And what the board is able to do on this item is approve these teachers to teach outside of their subject area. And we go through a process of determining that teachers have the expertise and the skill to teach this. And then this action by the board approves these teachers to teach these courses outside of their credential area and still provide our students with a variety of engaging and interesting electives, and also to ensure that we can meet the staffing requirements that we have each of our schools.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve new committee on assignment recommendations for the 2025-2026 school year?
Motion to approve it.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All right, any other comments? All right. Lots of great electives with people that are stepping up to do extra for us. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Now we have our first read of a board policy, which we're not approving this evening. And Dr. Chad?
Right, this is a board policy that is out of date, and there have been some changes to state laws and some requests from our legal counsel and based on CSBA's feedback to update this and make the process more clear. We do, if you have input or feedback, we do ask that you would provide that to us so that we can make some suggested edits to this, and like we did on the last board policy, get that document out to everyone in advance of the next board meeting so you'll have a chance to take a look at it and offer any other input or feedback that you have.
Thank you.
I'll share with our board. I sent a quick message to both of our association presidents, the FETA and CSEA, just to say, hey, this is a lot to do with your procedures, and make sure you check it out and let us know if you have any concerns or questions and bring them to the meeting. And what I heard back was that both presidents said that they thought that it was a fair policy, that it documented well the process that they are following, which does work. So I thought that was really a good sign that they, I mean, they still have time if they wish to make more comments or read it in further depth. But I think just hearing that their initial response was, yeah, it looks good and it works for what we're doing now in real life. It tends to be a helpful process.
Great. Okay, board member requests for future items. Anything we need to add right now, or we're okay starting off the year and see what happens?
I've brought up throughout this meeting, and I think it's not necessarily a board request, but just we oftentimes ask for communiques to continue to share information. And I think that all of us are thinking about attendance as we enter into this new school year and looking at, I know we've got some new tools to look at that, whether that's our new SSAs that are looking at attendance. We've got the Power School that's going to be tracking in real time attendance. But I think all of us have concerns about the fear that's in our community right now over ICE kidnappings and immigration enforcement. And we want to make sure that we're following and making sure our kids are coming to school on time, they feel comfortable, and families feel safe. And so if we're seeing dips in that, I think we'd all want to know about it. So much like we did kind of earlier last spring, I think it'd be really important for us to know that so that we can especially respond, whether that's changes that we need to make or direction we need to give, grassroots organizing that we need to respond with. I think we all want to know and make sure that we're responding to the needs of our community. So ask that be included in communique, and that all of our staff that have access to that kind of information are able to provide it.
So we can provide that information and then also let you know what attendance looks like historically versus what
Yeah.
we had in the previous years. So you'll have a comparison point
Absolutely.
this year versus last year. Before that, we still had a little bit of pandemic stuff going on, but I think this year to last year would be a good comparison.
Yeah.
And with making it known to everyone that we have other ways that students can attend school, that if in fact they want to pivot to virtual learning or what have you.
And we
It'd
did
be interesting to hear if that was helpful for people.
And we did send out our first message last night. Hopefully you all received that at home, and we'll be sending out another one the following week. We as well have worked with our staff at the MyConnect and MyFSD Academy, in addition to our staff in the independent study program. So they're prepared and ready to field phone calls from parents and be able to sign parents up for those programs.
And we are sending this email, the one that that you just sent last night. We are sending it in multiple languages, correct?
We are, correct. We sent it in all three languages that we sent out: English, Spanish, and Korean. Correct.
Thank you.
I appreciate that our district, I think, has made it very clear that as we continue to start for this new school year, being very clear about all the methods and the approaches we've taken to make sure schools are safe. We want families to know we will keep their babies safe when they're at school. We will do everything possible to keep them protected, but then also that we're providing so many other resources to support them, whether that's, even I was thinking laundry, to make sure if you're not going to the laundromat, or food, groceries, or whatever it is that might be a barrier to getting kids to school safely, that we want to be open to addressing those things.
Okay. All right. Okay, then we will adjourn this meeting. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Tuesday, August 19th. On that, adjourning the meeting at 9:19. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for staying. Thank you for